It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott's here. Richard Campbell's here. A record 7 builds to the Insider program. It's not simpler. And is Xbox on the cutting block? Lots of interesting stories coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell, episode 988, recorded Wednesday, June 17th, 2026. Bubbleable. It's time for Windows Weekly. Hello, you winners and you dozers too. Wake up. Here comes Paul Thurrott from Thurrott.com and Richard Campbell from .NET Rocks and RunAsRadio.com. Hello, guys. Looks like you're both at home.
Well, I am actually not.
Oh, where are you, Mr.? Oh, you. That's right.
Nashville.
You went to graduations, didn't you?
No, I did not. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm just here to visit my wife and kids.
Oh, you moved your wife to Nashville, eh?
Nice.
Close, but not too close.
Yeah. One of the things I remember, I really liked about Nashville is like every single restaurant has a band. Like it's just a thing.
Oh yeah, it's Music City.
Yeah, I'm surprised they don't call it Music City or something.
Weird.
It's
Weird. They should,
There's a lot of music, a lot of good music, a lot of good food.
Oh yeah, hot wings.
And be careful with the
chicken.
chicken sandwiches.
Yeah, hot chicken.
So we went to the place. I think it was just literally called Hot Chicken, and and I got the same little speech I often get in Mexico with the sauces for tacos.
Which is very hot.
Which is like, this one is hot. This one is very hot. Yeah, you don't want to eat this one. And I got it with no hot heat, whatever. And he brought out some just so I could try it. And I was like, exactly the experience I had the first time I had Abelor, which was like, I think you just shot me in the tongue. I don't know why.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
Shot.
I don't know why. I don't even know why I tried that.
Shot to the heart, and you're to blame. You should have told me it was super hot. They do that to Lisa too, but she says, "Bring it on, hotter, hotter, hotter."
Let's go.
Let's go.
This will satisfy that need. It's hot.
Yes. So now I'm asking you, Mr. Thurrott, and you, Mr. Richard Campbell,
yes,
if there's anything happening in the world of Microsoft today.
No, not really.
Okay.
Slow week.
Lots
of just tell the advertisers go home.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
You want to just go directly to the whiskey bit? I got the whiskey right here.
Let's go right. I got the whiskey right here.
There's a lot of Xbox stuff going on, and a lot of it is not good. And there's going to be a lot more of that in the coming couple of weeks. But I'm not. I decided not. I almost put it at the top because I was like, we should just get this out of the way. But
no,
I don't know. No.
Yeah, I like opening the Windows Weekly with Windows stuff. That's kind of cool, you know.
You're so weird like that.
The name is wrong, though. It really is Microsoft Weekly, but I didn't think I should use their name in vain.
It's more alliterative.
I use their name in vain every day, Leo.
Yeah.
And vainly use your name in vain. Right. Their name in vain. Oh, well, let's see what's going on in the Windows Insider program, Mr. T.
Yep. You really have a hard time. Not you, Leo. I'm sorry. I mean, we all have a hard time. I mean, like, Leo, I don't know why you are dumb this way. No, we're all having a really hard time understanding the Insider program. I enjoy that they simplified it. I would have enjoyed it more if they had actually simplified it.
They said they were going to simplify it. It doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah. It's partially complicated by the fact that there are multiple supported versions of Windows, right? So this is the world we live in.
This is the ARM problem.
Yeah. Well, it's just the Windows problem. You know, it's actually, I would call it the Copilot problem, because when they introduced Copilot in late 2023, they jammed it down everyone's throats 1 month before the annual feature update went out, because they wanted to make sure businesses didn't skip it, which they all would have. Mm-hmm. And ever since then, they've they've literally just gone to a system where if it's supported right now, you're going to get all the same features. So we have different, maybe foundational architectures in some ways, although, no, we do. I mean, 24, 25H2 are the same basic core OS, 26H1, and we'll see with 26H2, but H1, 26H1 is different, right? There's some differences in there, but the features we get, no matter which version we're running, are basically the same. I mean, sometimes they lag by a month on one or the other, but anyway. So we have, God, it's such a mess. I mean, on I think it was Friday, but whatever day, Microsoft released 7 insider builds. It was the most ever. Supporting, well, or against 3 supported versions of Windows, and then the experimental future platforms, which doesn't address any, right? And so,
okay.
Yeah, right. So there's 3 experimental builds, one for future platforms, one for 26H1, and one for 25H2. 2 beta builds, one for 26H1, one for 25H2.
Right.
And then 2 release preview builds, one for 26H1 and one for both 24 and 25H2.
24H2 should be going away by now, but okay.
October, yeah. It's going to be out of support in October, so soon. We still have all those questions.
I mean, they simplified in the sense they got rid of the 4 different paths, went down to 3 paths, but then did 2 builds of each, except for experimental, where they did an extra.
It's like a tree-based flow chart where each step you take, it then expands into more, steps each way. So it's kind of
tree-based, except there's landmines.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, you have been eaten by a grue. So I tried to break this down in a way that would make sense, and there is no way to do that. So if you're in the experimental channel, which is, I believe, what Dev used to be essentially. Regardless of its 26H1 and 26H2, I think. I love speaking like this.
Yes.
I want to be.
And I'm presuming definitive. Experimental in the sense that some of these experiments will fail and not continue on.
I think that's a possibility. It is a possibility, I should say. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're correct. But that said, I feel like that doesn't happen very often, right? No. And I don't know of any major examples of it.
And nor should it really.
Yeah, right. I mean, if you're
pushing builds to the insiders, you care. It's important.
I mean, every once in a while, you might want to do. They used to do this with A/B testing, but you might do an experiment, literally, where let's see what this looks like in this configuration, and these guys over here will test in a slightly different configuration.
Sure, but that means the feature is going to come. It's just a look and feel kind of thing.
Yeah, but I am not aware of that yet in the new system. But
no, I don't know. Why would they make A/B testing clear? Than that.
Yes. Please,
remember, but this is Pavan's new Windows. I'm optimistic in the sense that there's leadership caring about what's going on. It's not just 3 groups of bullies batting away at each other and deploying it to us.
Look, for whatever it's worth, I feel like not everyone, but anyone we've heard of or they've spoken publicly or written publicly, whatever, people in positions of power, hopefully, but usually. Do care, right? The rank and file in many cases are helpless. They have to do whatever the company's doing. They can't, everyone wants the product to be great.
Yeah. But pre-Pavan, and we talked about this before, it felt like there was nobody supervising the insider program. There were a number of different teams that had access to different parts, and they kind of did their own thing. And so it was kind of a mess.
This was, I'm surprised I haven't written this yet, but this was very much like what happened with Longhorn. When you think about it, it's just all these different teams doing their own thing.
Yeah.
And it will all come together someday, somehow. We don't know, because it always has. And
then at this moment, they're not even talking. So,
yeah. So it is. Yeah, it is. I guess it's more organized in that sense. And also, there is a leader who appears to be very hands-on and is an engineer type. And I like him. He's smart, well-spoken.
Yep. This is what has me excited, right? Is there's leadership who seems to care.
Yep. And of course, this year, we're going to talk about this probably in depth, but this is also a good year for Microsoft and Apple, right? It's doing this famously, I guess, kind of working on the fundamentals more and less on flashy features that maybe nobody wants,
fixing stuff that has annoyed people for a long time.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting.
An excellent mission, like a mission that is definitely feeding to the people rather than to leadership.
Yeah, right. I mean, you have to serve both masters to some degree, I guess. But
sure.
Anyway, so this year, by and large, we've gotten a couple of big features, but just a couple. And honestly, even the big ones, the new start menu that actually, well, there's a new start menu that has rolled out. There's a newer start menu coming soon that has not rolled out generally, to general public. And the new taskbar that has also not rolled out to everybody are big in a way, but they're also, they're familiar, right? I mean, they're not actually major leaps or anything, but whatever. There's a good range of things happening here. As far as this set of Windows Insider builds goes, they're testing the less disruptive Windows Update experience, meaning they want to have one reboot a month for people. Mm-hmm. So we have typically gotten, I don't like this term, but they call it these days a security update. It's really what I would call a cumulative update that includes security fixes and other bug fixes, but also new features, right? I'd like to see those split up, but whatever. But there's also things like, PC Maker firmware updates and driver updates. And if you check that box in Windows Update, you can get some updates for other Microsoft apps. Like I think Visual Studio can go through Windows Update, for example. .NET updates, which are always time consuming for whatever reason, whatever they are. Kind of roll those all into one day, not one update, but rather, because it's going to be different for everybody, but have them all occur at the same time so that if you have to reboot, and you will for most of those things, it will be one reboot, not, we rebooted on Tuesday for the feature update or for the cumulative update or whatever. Oh, and then Wednesday I got a firmware update, rebooted again. Thursday I got, they'll try to align those up, right? So that's good.
Optimistic.
Yeah. Some Windows search improvements, which actually is something I have complained about, right? You can, I'm not gonna be able to do it on this computer, but if you, this is probably not the case anymore, but if you open the start menu and start typing like CA, depending on what you ran last, you're going to see camera or calculator as the top choice.
The best match.
I used it, as a match, right? It makes sense. Some time ago, a year ago or less, at least on my computer, when I did that, if I typed in CAM, it would actually bring up calculator as the first choice. It's like, what?
Nice. Or
you could type something like AMER for camera, right? Without the C, and it wouldn't find it at all. Mm-hmm. It's now handling that kind of thing. So if you drop a letter, especially off the front, which was the biggest problem to me, if you have a typo, whatever it might be, type in some extra words, et cetera, it's actually going to start finding that stuff, like a real search. So
weird.
It's actually, so those are both good. I mean, those are solid. They're not flashy per se, but they're good.
Yeah.
And then we get to the beta stuff, and it's like, so 26.1 and 26H2 are both getting that screen tint feature that we talked about previously from some earlier. It probably was an experimental, so it's moving down the chain, right? And this is an accessibility feature, but it adds a color tint to the entire screen.
Right.
I guess for eye strain, but I suppose depending on.
It seems like something I would turn off, but
same.
Different eyes, different problems, right?
Yep, it's funny because it's not funny. Well, it is funny. The example they use is a pink color in the screenshot, and that's the color that my screen takes on almost on every computer, basically, when I turn on adaptive color,
right?
Which is not available on all computers, depending on the capabilities of your screen. It doesn't seem to adapt. It just seems to change it pink, and I hate it. So I try it, and it goes pink, and I turn it off. But depending, you may have some kind of an eye issue or whatever, where this makes sense for you. So. That's fine. It's not a big deal. I don't hate it or anything. It's just whatever it is. That's and it's also it's in release preview. So we're going to see that in 25H2 pretty soon, I would imagine, probably in July, right? If it's there. So it's in beta across 26 and 25H2, 26H1 and 25H2, but also in release preview for 25H2, suggesting, it's going to be pretty quick. If you're in beta 25H2, you're also going to get the updated widget experience, which is this one I like personally because it is literally how I configure widgets. Like, one of the first things I do is open the widgets, go to widget settings, and I turn off that hover feature where the mouse cursor goes over the widget icon there. It launches
freaks
widgets.
Out.
Why would this
click
one
me.
UI launch like that?
Click me.
Oh, don't click me. Just come in my general direction,
And things will happen.
And then I turn off the notifications, which are the things where it will say something like, some little news feed thing or like a stock ticker, something. I like having the weather display down there, and I don't want to open widgets unless I click on it. And then I always click on it, and then I hate myself because it's terrible, but whatever. So there's that. So that's nice. And I guess they're doing work on the back end to reduce the memory footprint, in keeping with all that other efficiency type work. So that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
The new zoom controls on Magnifier. So Magnifier obviously lets you zoom in and out. They've done, that's a primary feature of it, but now they have smaller step presets. So, and you can actually set an exact percentage now. That's cool.
There seem to be a bunch of tools that are about dealing with vision impairments.
Yeah, this is good timing for me because my eyes are terrible. So yeah, it's appreciated. Yeah, for sure.
This is your world now, pink and zoomed.
Yeah, pink and zoomed, right. Right. Every screen I look at looks like a postage stamp, and I can't read it. We went to like a print. There's a famous print shop. You think about those classic music posters, but they're stamped out. They've been making since the 18th. Yeah, letterpress, exactly. There's a famous place in Nashville that does this, and we went there for we had a little hands-on tour thing, whatever. And they were showing. She had this, it's like a metal plate, and this is the normal typeface, she said, for a newspaper. So if you're reading on a phone or a computer, it's basically like 12-point, Times New Roman or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I can assure you that's not what it is on my computer. It's like I couldn't see that. I'm like, is that 1-point type? But anyway, so there's that. And then so that's beta 26 and 26H1, 25H2, and then as you get into release preview, you get this stuff I just talked about, the screen tint thing, the widgets changes, the magnifier changes, and then some Bluetooth connectivity improvements, which are also going up to release preview 24H2, which is like, okay. It's, okay. So a lot of stuff. And then there was no notation on these, so I assume these mean that they are being applied to any channel. So there are two features, three really, but voice access and voice typing improvements, I believe, are happening across the board. And then the new right-click settings for touchpads, which I'd hoped would solve my biggest accessibility problem, which is the thing I keep bringing up, where I single-click on a touchpad. These touchpads are the size of Volkswagens now in many cases, but if I'm not in the leftmost 1/3 of most of these touchpads, it doesn't register as a click, and I hate it so much. And they have these right click, there's a right click in the corner or right click on the side. You can, 2-finger right click, which is what I prefer. I've talked about how you can open a menu anywhere in Windows, and you can just click, tap the touchpad to select the item. It closes the menu, which should mean it was selected, but it did not select it because I'm too far over on the touchpad, I guess. If I'm too far over, why did it do anything? You registered the click, but you didn't apply it to the UI. So anyway, it's not going to fix that. But it is a way to customize the size of the right click area. I would like that to be off, which you can do, by the way. You can turn that off. I would like the size of the left click zone to be the whole touchpad. You cannot do that. I don't know why.
No.
So
I always hate when you get a surprise right click out of your touchpad.
Yeah. I mean, I like the definitive nature of like single click is click, 2 fingers, right click,
Mm-hmm.
You very rarely want to right click something, certain user interfaces maybe is the way to say it. So making it like a deliberate, I guess I'll call it a gesture. I'm not really sure what else to call it. Like a 2-finger, tap, to me makes sense. You are very specifically trying to do that thing, whereas every other time you should just be tapping it, or clicking it or selecting it or however you want to say that. But I don't know. Yeah. So that's the mess that is the Windows Insider program.
Everything's going very well.
Well, I mean, to be fair to them, and they're doing monthly updates now where they kind of recap what they've done. I mean, they're moving forward on the stuff. They set out this list. They're checking them off. They're getting them out there. The biggest ones have not come out to stable yet. But, Windows Update with that new calendar control and the ability to delay forever, the new start menu, the new taskbar, this widgets thing I just talked about.
I got to believe that there's an initiative somewhere to unify the versions, right? Why does the ARM build have to be separate from the x86 build?
Yeah. So I had made the comment, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. It must have been I don't know if it was release preview or one of the insider builds. I was saying, it looked like they kind of lined them up, but then Patch Tuesday happened this month, and 26H1 is still a month behind. So,
right.
It may be because 26H1 is such a one-off, and they are at some point going to bring them back together in some way. But I don't know.
And maybe that's true. They want to unify the ARM builds into that, and then it would just be 4 builds this particular iteration instead of 7, which is something. What does experimental platforms actually mean if not ARM?
I think. Well, so you had made the point that experimental should mean, or maybe does mean, the features that may or may not make it, right?
Yeah, but there were 3 experimental deploys, right?
Yeah,
but then they.
Well, so there's an experimental tied to each of the supported versions of Windows, and then there's a future platforms one. So future platforms to me means, even if they might not call it this, but the thing we sort of think of as Windows 12 or the next thing that, the 26H1, which is only on ARM technically, is not going to get 26H2. They haven't said what it's going to get or when, and I think it's that, if that makes sense. It's
not Raspberry Pi, or
they're not. Yeah, well, that should work too.
DGX Spark.
Yeah. So, well, I don't want to get. Yeah, I've got a thing coming up about some of the work Microsoft is doing to lower the system requirements and so forth, in keeping with our little component crisis. That so we'll talk about that in a bit, but that's part of it.
Do you want to take a break now?
Sure.
Would you like to?
I'll do a little jog around the house.
Keep Richard away from the whiskey while we pause. And
I have not opened this bottle yet. I'm going to tell you the whole story before I open it. So it'll be a surprise for me.
Exciting. Yeah, I like the tasting part of it. That's always fun. And your tasting notes are very good. I'm trying to do this with coffee, and it says, well, is it floral? Is it, do you taste berries? Is it not? It tastes coffee.
It tastes like coffee.
It tastes like coffee.
Yeah.
Is it?
I read
bitter?
tasting notes for whiskey that say things like pencil shavings and old leather, and I'm like, no, not looking for that.
I have had wine that tastes like old leather, but I don't know if that was intentional.
I'm not going to call that a feature. Why'd you print that on the bottle?
Could have been the Boda bag it was in. I don't know. Let me talk about our sponsor for this segment of Windows Weekly. Then we will continue on with the show. We're brought to you today by Trusted Tech. And this is a very timely advert, because in 14 days, everything changes. If you're managing Microsoft 365 for your company, you respect, right? As the kids say, you're responsible for both the cost and whether it's set up correctly. And coming July 1st, so that's 13, 14 days away, Microsoft is going to raise the prices. So any mistakes in your licensing are about to get more expensive one way or the other. Most companies are using that use Microsoft 365 are either over licensed, paying for unused seats and features. And sometimes you do that just because, I don't want to be under licensed, because under licensing creates compliance and security risks. And, in some companies, you get it both ways. One department's over licensed, one is under licensed. The result is wasting thousands, sometimes tens of thousands per year on tools your team doesn't use, or frankly worse, missing critical security features you thought you had. It's complicated. I understand. Trusted Tech helps businesses understand what they have, what they actually need, and how to lock in the right setup now before the costs go up in a couple of weeks. Their team ensures your M365 environment is well supported and aligned with how your business actually operates. And if you need ongoing help, they don't just do licensing. Trusted Tech also offers reactive support for your Microsoft environment through their certified support services, so they can help you on both ends. Microsoft licensing, though, let's focus on that for the moment, because it is a complicated beast, constantly changing. E3 versus E5 versus Business Premium, there's add-ons, there's a new E7. I understand it's confusing, and it's easy to misconfigure and overpay. And licensing mistakes, yeah, they could cost money, but they could also create compliance exposure that gets more expensive after July 1st. So even if you think your licensing is dialed in, it's worth a second look. Just ask Kevin Turner. You know his name. I know, former Microsoft COO. He was talking to Trusted Tech. This is what he said, quote, "You have an incredible customer reputation. You have to earn that every day. The relentless focus you guys have on taking care of customers gives them value and differentiates you in the marketplace." He's a fan. You will be too. But remember, after July 1st, you're stuck paying more. This is it. The last chance to fix your licensing before the costs go up. Trusted Tech is offering a free Microsoft 365 licensing consultation right now. Visit trustedtech.team/Windows Weekly 365. trustedtech.team/Windows Weekly 365. You'll get a clear data-backed view of your current licenses, what you're wasting, and how to lock in savings before the price increase. Go to trustedtech.team/Windows Weekly 365 and submit a form to get in contact with Trusted Tech Microsoft licensing engineers. You can thank me July 2nd. trustedtech.team/Windows Weekly 365. And we thank them so much for supporting Windows Weekly and the good works of Mr. P. Thurrott and Mr. R. Campbell as we continue.
Every time you say Kevin Turner's name, I'm like, I cannot believe we're talking about this guy. He's still around, well, right? Like a long time.
He lives. But I remember you talked about him a lot back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, he was a big deal.
Time. Yeah. All right. Moving on.
Yes.
What do you got?
Well, there were rumors earlier this year that Microsoft wasn't going to ship new Snapdragon X2 based Surface PCs until the second half of the year. They announced the Intel Core Ultra Series 3 models, I think a couple of weeks ago, fairly recently. And that kind of, that maybe cemented that theory, but then they just announced them this week. So,
well, that's the second half.
No, I thought they would have announced them at Build. I think, but they only talked about the Ultra at Build, right?
Right, which is the one that is not coming until. That might explain the rumor there, to be honest. And maybe someone they heard ARM or something and thought that's what it meant. But so, in keeping with the lineup as it stood until fairly recently, there's a 13-inch model, a 13.8-inch model, and a 15-inch model, or series of models. When they went to the ARM chips 2 years ago with the first Snapdragon X, there was just a 13.8 and a 15-inch. And then sometime last year, I think it was, they introduced the 13 as kind of a lower cost option. And then on the Pro side, they have a new 13-inch Surface Pro, which was has been the size for a couple of generations, and then a smaller 12-inch as well. So they have the smaller Surface Pro and the smaller Surface Laptop to kind of come in at a lower price, which these days is not a low price.
There are no low prices, not a one.
No, but especially with Microsoft, right? And it's not their fault, but per se. But a couple things going into any kind of Surface launch. They're going to have fun new colors, which you can't get because they're only going to be on certain models, and they're not going to be on the one you want.
Yeah.
This year, those colors are like a jade green, which you can only get, I think, on the 13.8-inch Surface laptop. And then there's kind of I think they call it Dune, which is kind of a gold tan, kind of bronze color, which I believe is only on the 13-inch Surface Pro. But even less so than that, it's only on certain configurations. Like, this is always the problem, and
this is where I think they're missing out on an opportunity. Like, the logical thing to do is make the highest end unit with the most memory and the most storage and the highest processor in hot pink.
Yeah.
So the geek who just has to own it has to own it.
Actually, you're right. And honestly, as someone who wanted the fun, like 2 years ago, I would have gotten that light blue color they had. It was not available in the high end configuration I got. And I would have appreciated that, honestly.
Yeah, because I think the only picture of the Ultra we got, it's black. Of course, it's black.
Yeah. So the problem with a black laptop, any dark colored laptop, assuming it's made of aluminum, is that it's anodized. That means you can scratch off the color, and that means you're going to see the silver underneath. And I hate that so much; it makes me crazy.
Yeah.
So I had to get when I bought my Surface Laptop 7 2 years ago, I had to get it in black. That was the only color that was available in the configuration I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, there's plenty of silver on the edges, just from me rubbing my hands, as I type or whatever. It's what happens. It's the reality of it.
Maybe the vinyl wrap.
Yeah, right. It's tough on the hard corners, though. This is not, I don't know. It's just
nothing you can do about that.
The other thing you kind of go into this knowing is that Microsoft's prices are going to be a little higher because Microsoft in the PC space is sort of a boutique company, so to speak, and does not have the volume discounts that like a Lenovo or Apple might get.
And never tried to be, right? It's like they were supposed to be reference machines and they were pricey.
Yeah. So that's always been true, and the problem is with the component crisis, it gets exacerbated and exaggerated. And sometimes to ludicrous degrees. So, for example, with the laptop I bought 2 years ago, which was a 32 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage, 15-inch configuration, I believe was $2,200. Which, by the way, a lot of money for that kind of a laptop at that time. I mean, that's I would say from and maybe it wouldn't be. This would be Intel, AMD, Snapdragon, whatever. That's more like $1,600. It was expensive.
Yeah.
That configuration today is, I think, $1,950. It's significantly more expensive, $750 more. The price difference is going to vary by configuration. The biggest jump, the most terrible jumps are, there's two, is when you go to 32 gigs of RAM, or then 64, which is like off the charts, or when you go from 512 to 1 terabyte or to 2 terabytes, both of which are off the charts. And this is the thing I was talking about earlier. We know Apple's doing this on the Mac side and on iOS, et cetera, but Microsoft is doing it with Windows. This is the pain point thing. So they're addressing user concerns related to features they maybe wanted, like moving the taskbar around. Okay, that's great. But they're also designing these things, or designing all the system components so they take up less resources, they give up RAM more quickly. They'll do a little CPU boost for app launch speed, but then they'll go right back down. And this is going to help those who are staying with a computer they already own, which might only have, hopefully not 4, but 8 gigs of RAM or something. It will help PC makers that now want to sell cheaper devices, because the only way to do that is not to have all that RAM and storage in there.
You can't add it later, right? These are all hardwired.
Yeah, so this is the double-edged sword of these integrated SoCs. It's true with Apple Silicon, it's true of Snapdragon, it's true of the NVIDIA thing that's coming. It's true of some, like Lunar Lake, it was true, but it's not true of the Panther Lake stuff for Intel. It is true with some of the AMD configurations as well. The RAM is integrated on the SoC, so you get what you get when you buy it, and you cannot upgrade that. Right. The rest of these computers are, by and large, much more upgradable than they've been in years, meaning you can just take off the back with normal tools. You can replace the SSD, the wireless module, the battery, basically everything. I mean, but as an end user, you could actually upgrade certain components very easily. And I did that last year with a Snapdragon laptop, actually, right? When I did the SSD upgrade. But the RAM is integrated. So this is why this work is so crucial. And we'll get to that in a moment. But these things are tough, because when I look at the prices of these computers, I would just never upgrade it. There's no way. Plus, 2 years is not a long time. One of the nice things about the Snapdragon stuff is that those laptops from 2 years ago are fantastic. They're still great. Day-to-day use, normal laptop productivity work, there's no difference, X to X2. It doesn't matter. You could have the cheapest, lowest end X1 Gen Plus, whatever it's called. Actually, it's called Snapdragon X. That thing's going to work great. Still, there's no problem there. But then the other little thing, again, this is Microsoft, because Microsoft, they're not Apple. They're not Dell or Lenovo or HP. They have trade-in programs like everyone else. They do it through a third party. And one of the things I looked at was like, if I got enough for my Surface laptop, I guess I would consider this upgrade. But the quote they're offering is like up to $900 cash back with trade-in. And I have the second highest Surface Laptop 7 laptop you can get. So I'm thinking, okay, up to 900. maybe I'll get 700. No, $318 and some change was what I was going to get. And it's like, yikes.
Give it to a friend.
Yep. So we'll get to that in a bit. There's a little bit more I want to say about that. But Samsung, maybe coincidentally or not, also announced a new version of their really nice Windows laptop series. They have like Galaxy Book, whatever. So we're up to, I think this one is Galaxy Book 6, Edge, which is this is crazy. It's a 16 gigabyte configuration, 1 terabyte of RAM, storage, for $2,100. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, yikes. It is I think it's a 16 inch screen, but they're going to have a hard time selling these. Not because there's anything wrong with the laptops, right? This one, the Surface stuff, these are great computers, but these prices are too high for most people, I think.
Yeah, and you know what? It just makes a lot of sense to wait a year.
Yeah. It stinks that you can't upgrade more of it, because you could make a case for lowballing on, if you could, RAM and storage now just to get it, and I can upgrade those one at a time, maybe over some period of time.
Yeah.
You can't.
No, it used to be we just buy new SDDR for it and upgrade it, but that time is past.
Will a year be enough, you think? I mean, will the prices come down in a year?
We don't know. So when this started,
this could be a long-term problem.
It's going to go through at least 2027. The thing is, every once in a while, you'll see, there are instances of sales and things, right? I've seen decent SSDs for good prices very briefly. So you could kind of time it for one of those type of situations. I review over 20 laptops a year. I can only think of one laptop in the past at least 2 years, and possibly 3, where the RAM was upgradable. Even on systems where the RAM is not integrated into the SoC, it is almost always soldered onto the motherboard.
Yep.
And it's just, I don't understand this. I mean, I do understand why they did it, because that helps them create a thinner laptop. And RAM makers have come up with smaller, they're not called SODIMMs or whatever anymore. They're smaller modules that will help with that. They're probably similar to like a M2, whatever that is, 2240, whatever those little cards, the little half-size cards. But they're not common. You don't see them a lot. I've only seen it on one laptop. So we're just not there. And I don't think we're ever going to get there on ARM. I don't see that changing. I don't see it changing on the Apple side, if that matters to anybody. But it's just, where we're at. And it's too bad, because I do think a lot of us could get away with a slightly lower end configuration right now, with the hope of upgrading later. It's kind of a nice thing that you can upgrade something and use it for longer, and get, and kind of keep that system going for a longer period of time. It's good for all kinds of reasons, right? But I don't know. This is. No,
I think it's just people are going to look at that and go, "I'm going to wait."
Yeah,
I can keep this machine. I look at my Studio 2, which is 2.5 years old, and just pave it. Right, it'll be happier with a pave. After 2.5 years, all those software changes are like fatty food. That thing needs an angioplasty. Right? It just needs to be blown out, and it'll be good to go.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel very fortunate that I bought that framework desktop when I did, with 128 gigs of RAM. Because
I know you'd be facing a car payment if you bought that thing today.
But the thing is, the reason you want RAM on the SoC, because you want the bandwidth.
I know, that's what I mean. Bandwidth. Like there are real benefits to it. There's no doubt about it. But the thing, when Apple moved to the M series, Apple Silicon chips, one of the question marks was, well, they do have these, they have these big desktops at the time, like the Power Mac. They can be configured in ways that are essentially like portable, or not portable, like workstation type computers. Will there be some version of them in the future where they offer dedicated graphics, and their answer is no.
They believe in metal.
They're like, no, this is the way we're doing this. And so that was a minor thing. I mean, in some ways, but the RAM thing is a big one, because that impacts everybody, right? Yep. And so when you have something like a MacBook Neo, which is inexpensive but is only 8 gigs of RAM, the fact that you can't even get a 16 gig configuration is unfortunate to me.
I think it's a showstopper for certain people.
Well, it's interesting because the next gen iPhones are going to have 12 gigs of RAM so that they can run the Apple models. And so the RAM is going to become suddenly a big deal.
Right. Yeah.
Well, the reason I feel good about the framework is because I had the thought a year ago, maybe I should have a central server and then I don't have to spend so much on the laptops. They can be thin clients connecting to something with more horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's in fact what I'm doing. So I'm not so worried about RAM in the laptops anymore because all the work's being done.
This is, there are many ways where the big remain big and get bigger. And in the case of big tech, they maintain their market dominance or whatever. And that's one aspect of this, where you have a bigger company like Apple or a bigger player like Lenovo who are
right. They buy it in volume.
They buy in volume, so they get those discounts.
Yeah.
But there's also, we shouldn't discount the notion of like well-run companies versus less well-run companies. I mean, whatever anyone thinks of Apple, because Tim Cook with his little finger on the spreadsheet there knows exactly when memory prices change by a penny. Probably bulk ordered RAM very early on, much earlier than a lot of companies. And so they're benefiting from two things there, right? Which is, their size and the scope of how much they sell, but also just smart leadership. That really helps, and Microsoft is, I don't know anything about who's running this and how smart they are about this stuff. It doesn't matter because they just don't sell enough. There's not much they can do to solve that for themselves.
You know what this means? We need memory futures market.
I'm sure there is one somewhere.
I'm pretty sure every gambling outfit that is what sports are today is also betting on the price of RAM, sure. So look, all things end at some point, and I don't know that prices on RAM ever come down, but hopefully
they likely will. I mean, the big issue here is the back orders, right? Like this is what Micron and all those guys are talking about. It's not that they're not going to jack up their production. They're going to raise it by 25% or something because they've got a huge backlog that they don't think is ever going to get filled. That a lot of these orders are going to disappear.
Yep.
And once that backlog starts to subside, things will be different.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I wish I would love some clarity here, but 2 years ago, Microsoft and Apple both did something that I thought was the greatest step forward and made so much sense and still does, but not when the prices are where they are, which was, Microsoft has this minimum requirement in Windows 11 of 4 gigabytes of RAM, which is completely unrealistic and has been for years. Yeah. And so when I write, the Windows 11 field guide, whatever version, I'd have to figure it out, but for several years, my recommendation has been like, you need 16 gigs of RAM at a minimum. That's the minimum. That's like a realistic minimum.
Yeah.
And then Apple, anyway, so Copilot plus PC, that's the minimum, right? So they have this spec. It's a brand or whatever you want to call that. I guess it's a brand, but it's also a specification. And one of the specifications you have to meet to get this is 16 gigs of RAM. And I was like, beautiful. Mm-hmm. Apple did the same thing when they moved to 16 gigs of RAM as a minimum on Macs at that time. Now they have an 8 gig model again, but and I was like, okay, this is. I like to see the minimum make sense. It's common sense. Like it seemed like this was a good deal. Now 2 years later, we have a component crisis, and we have computer makers trying to sell computers with just 8 gigs of RAM that are brand new. Yeah, Apple's doing it with like a phone chip. We have
just for a price point.
Yep. Yeah. Just, and okay. But both Apple and Microsoft, and not for the first time in their histories, are also looking at their platforms and going to release a major update to all of them that are basically just about making those things run better with fewer resources, right?
Right.
It's the simplest way to say it. So when you think about the pain point stuff that Microsoft's doing, there are features like moving the taskbar around, but really, the big stuff to me is all the, we're actually going over the code with a fine-tooth comb. We're going to fix inefficiencies. We're going to let this thing work better and with less RAM, less storage, less processor power, or whatever. We have Snapdragon C chips coming on the ARM side. We have the Wildcat, I guess, or whatever the Intel chipset is. Everyone's going to make these laptops, and they're probably going to, some of them on the Windows side will probably even come with 4 gigs of RAM, which makes me want to cry inside, but 8 gigs of RAM, whatever.
That's all that's going to happen with a 4 gig machine is it's going to get returned. It's still expensive.
I can't even imagine.
And you're going to be furious.
I don't like 4 gigs of RAM in a VM. But I mean, it's whatever. But okay, I mean, look, different people have different needs. The one thing, the qualifier I will add to this is that when I talk about computers, I'm talking about computers a human being will actually use every day. It's a primary device, right? For some people, a computer, like this is like the Chromebook use case in some ways, or at least it was in the beginning, other than like education or whatever, is like a secondary device. You're spending most of your time on a phone probably. But every once in a while, you need that big screen and you full-size keyboard, you got to type out something, whatever. If you're just using it occasionally, like for that kind of thing, a Chromebook, a MacBook Neo, a 8 maybe, but 8 gigabyte Windows laptop, yes.
But you spend $3,000 for something you used occasionally.
I know. Yeah, that's the problem. So with the price, I know the prices are crazy.
Buy another phone.
But here's the thing, the silver lining to this, the little flower growing out of the shitstorm that is everything that's happening in our lives right now, is that this type of situation is what drives innovation in a way. When you are forced to make do with less, life finds a way. The Jurassic Park thing, like I was just rereading, I'm working on this series of articles about whatever kind of tech history thing, but I was reading about when the VIC-20, the Commodore VIC-20 came out in 1980 or 81, whatever year that was, the norm at the time for things like the Commodore PET or the Apple II or TRS-80 or whatever was like 16 kilobytes of RAM. The IBM PC came out with a minimum of 16, but it was really, more than that, depending on where we were at. And they're like, yeah, we have this cute little computer. It's 5K of RAM, and it's actually not even 5K. It's really like 3.5K of RAM. And it can't even do a 40-column text display. It's 22 columns at best. It doesn't even have sprites, But we can sell it for $300, which was the price of an Atari 2600. And developers worked with what they had and made incredible arcade quality games on this thing. And that's what you do when you have to. And we have lived in a world where we essentially have infinite resources. And certainly for the developers at Microsoft and maybe elsewhere, act as if they do. And you write to this world where everyone has gigabytes of memory and gigabytes of storage and amazing processors. And you don't really write tight, efficient code anymore because you don't have to.
No, and that's been true for a long time.
Yep.
Because we weren't.
But this exacerbates it, right? I mean, the component crisis really drives this home.
And then you throw in the LLMs where you can tell the tool, go find me resource savings. Yes, definitely, yes. And so it doesn't, I'm not going to thank AI for ruining the world, but there is, there's always that other side of the coin, or however you want to say that, where yes, there's bad, to this. But by the way, I also say the VIC-20 became the gateway drug to the 64. Like I know almost nobody who loved their VIC-20 didn't immediately get a 64.
There were a lot of them in closets.
Yeah, and actually, the interesting thing about that history is that the VIC-20, $300, was in the market for maybe 2 years before the Commodore 64 came out. So the expectation from a lot of people was that, well, they'll replace the Commodore 64 in 2 or 3 years, and they didn't. I mean, yes, there was
a 128 eventually.
A 128, but it was a Commodore 64 with other stuff, and then that came and went, and the Commodore 64 kept going, and that thing was in the market until the mid or at least early 90s.
Well, it was the happy size, right?
Yeah, it worked. It was it was a good combination of capabilities, and so the stuff that's happening now will benefit everybody, right? So if you have to buy a computer and you're not going to get the thing you wanted, maybe because the prices are so high, Apple, if you're on that side of the fence, or Microsoft on this side, are doing the work to make that make more sense, right? In the sense that the OS will run better, et cetera. But if you already have a computer, that also means you can keep that thing running for longer, right? We're going to benefit that way. And if you do buy or have a computer with lots of RAM and lots of storage, you're still going to benefit from this stuff. I mean, it's all good. Like, there's no downside to this.
No, I've never met anybody with 128 gigs of RAM going, damn it, too much memory.
I wish I had more RAM. I can only run 117 VMs. I don't know what's going on. But the prices really, they just blow my mind. You could spend $3,700 on a Surface laptop.
Yep.
There is no planet on which that makes any sense. None. Like that's insane. And the other thing
about the Ultra is going to be more, right? Like the Ultra's 5.
It's going to be, that's going to be the next step up for sure. one thing I found, actually, I'll say two things. Big fan of the Snapdragon stuff. I think I made that very obvious.
Yeah.
I still laugh out loud a little bit every time I open the lid. Just comes on. Love it. The efficiency, reliability, performance, the whole thing. It's great. It is astonishing to me, and this happened a year ago when I bought that, at the time, $600 OmniBook 5 with a base level Snapdragon X processor. This year, the version of that is an IdeaPad Slim 15-inch X2 based, X2 Plus based laptop, right? Where these have the lowest end chip you can get in this processor family, and they are wonderful. Like, they're wonderful. And here's a little kick you in the gut thing if you're a big fan of Microsoft Surface. That 15-inch IdeaPad, which is a Snapdragon X2 Plus, 16 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabytes of storage, which the Surface will cost you $1,700. You can buy right now for $850, which is one half of the price of the Surface. One half. And it is the exact same internals. Yeah, that's what you're going to do if you want that thing. And the nice thing is a way to, and by the way, $850 is an excellent price to pay for a laptop. Yep. Yes, it is the lowest end Snapdragon, but there's something magical about these chips where those low end things work great. It is one of my, the year-old X1, non-plus version, the new X2 Plus IdeaPad are still among my favorite computers.
X1's 2 years old, but yeah.
Well, the laptop I bought was from a year ago, but yes. Right. But they're like, so these things have legs. They work great. You can save money by going down market. You can't do that with Surface. Like, one of the problems with Surface laptop is that you can choose between an X2 Plus and an X2 Elite. So you're like, well, I'll save some money that way. If you go down to Plus, you only get that one config. It's the 16 gig of RAM, 512. But like I said, it's $1,700. If you go to the X2 Elite, you only add $100 to the cost. So saving $100 is like maybe, I guess I would do it. But how about saving $850? You would get the Lenovo instead.
Yeah.
And I guess at least it's an option, at least it's an option. A year ago, the equivalent, like I said, was selling for $600.
Yeah.
So even that's more expensive, but at least it's under $1,000.
At least.
It's hard. It's hard.
And I noticed, seems like the default rig for these Surfaces the X2s are 16 gigs, and then you get it in Jade.
In Jade, yes. Well, there are many open questions here, and they'll be answered in time as things happen. Because as we've been talking about, I feel like they're either going to have to change the Copilot Plus PC brand, or make those features available elsewhere. Which we talked about this, and not just up the chain for people with high-end GPUs, et cetera, but because PC makers are going to have to sell 8 gig configurations. Does that mean we're going to get a Surface Laptop /Pro with 8 gigs of RAM, which they've not announced yet? But probably will. And if so, is that thing now not a Copilot Plus PC because it doesn't officially meet that number?
Yeah.
Or do you just ease the spec up? We don't know. I don't know what if anything
that stuff actually works, right? Like that. You don't just make an 8 gig machine. You have to go through the full set of testing.
But if you think about like I don't actually know what the interaction is here. So if you think about a 16 gig Copilot Plus PC, it has this 40 tops or 80 tops CPU, depending on the gen. Yeah. And you're running whatever local AI models to do things like super res, or what do you call it? Like a super resolution upscaling, or, image creation in one of those photos or paint apps, or background removal, or whatever it is. If you have an 8 gig machine and now you've updated the API so that those things can actually run against a CPU, a GPU, if you have integrated GPU, an NPU, if you have that, whatever, how does that impact things? Like, would it just work? Would it run a little more slowly? Would it not work at all? Is the RAM that important? Leo mentioned the phone thing. Like, we've seen this with all phones, but Apple's, every year now is raising the RAM in the phones because you need that. This is always explicitly stated. You do need it for these AI operations, at least for them to run well. Remember when the Google had come up with the first Gemini Nano on-device model. And I guess it would have been the Pixel 9 series of phones. It was on all of them, I think, yes. And then when the 9A came out, they were like, yeah, it only has 8 gigs of RAM. We can't put it on there. And everyone freaked out and complained. And they found a way. Life finds a way, I guess. Maybe it's not as capable. Maybe it runs more slowly. I don't know. But they did kind of figure it out. Like, I feel like that has to be part of what's happening, Windows and Apple, like all the Apple platforms. It's an interesting problem.
Yep. It's a fun time, and it definitely has messed with my need to replace this machine, this Studio 2, because it's, like I said, I think I'll pave it if it really annoys me. It's getting a little weird now, so it's been 2.5 years. So you expect it to get weird after a while.
Yep. Until 2 seconds ago, if you had an older computer, I was just going to say, so, Windows 11, I'm just roughing it a little bit here. If you have an 8th gen Intel or equivalent processor or newer, you can upgrade to Windows 11, pretty much, right? There's exceptions in both directions, but just make it simple. But if you have an older computer, 6th, 7th gen, whatever it is, the answer to date has been, put Linux on there, You could work around that, right? I document ways to do that all over the place. I think someone who's technical enough to run Linux could handle that. But then again, if you just made Windows more efficient, I don't see them lowering the requirements or anything. We're not going to wake up tomorrow and Microsoft's, yep, we're doing 7th gen and 6th gen now. That's not going to happen. But anything that could kind of keep these things going longer is good. It's good for everybody. Like I said,
well, and spending a little time on efficiency is not a bad thing either.
Right.
There's almost no downside to that.
Yep. Yeah. Everyone, Apple does this, they did WWDC last week. If you were looking for splashy excitement or whatever, it might've been a little boring, but in the sense that Apple fans can rationalize anything, the general consensus here is, this is like what they did with Snow Leopard. They had this, remember 0 new features? They were celebrated for this, They took a year off from adding new features and just to fix all the problems they created. And then we celebrate them for that, Microsoft does the same thing, guys. That's what Windows 7 was. We've done this multiple times. We've all done it.
Very popular version of Windows.
Yep. It was inarguably the most popular version of Windows ever. Yeah. And all it was Windows Vista with,
Service Pack 2
performance efficiencies. Yes, it was a Service Pack. And the people who made Windows 7 hate hearing that. They don't want to hear that. They would argue it, but
they just were wrong. Sorry, but that's all.
That's all it is. Yeah, that's their position.
I get it.
So, yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I'm really curious. This whole year is going to be fascinating. Yeah. I'm just curious to see what happens next. I feel like any given day, we could wake up and there will be news along these lines. There'll be some clarity someday on whatever the 26H1 upgrade is, whatever the future of Copilot plus PC is, whatever that NVIDIA thing is, and there will be lower end versions, et cetera. What the prices are, we're going to learn all this stuff eventually.
Yeah.
But I think I said this last week. You try to understand, like, why is Microsoft finally listening to feedback when they've been ignoring us for so long? And one of those things is, corporate customers obviously is a pretty obvious way to go. But they could see this component crisis unfolding too, and they have this big bloated thing that's not very efficient. And God, we could take a few months and actually fix this. Like, we should fix this.
No, that would be the positive thing. But the other side of this is, like I said, all these producers are back ordered for data centers that may or may not be built. And if the bubble burst heavily and a whole lot of those data centers went away and the back orders just evaporated, these producers should still be left holding bags on a whole bunch of very high-end chips, the only things that are being ordered. Like, we could easily see pricing tank.
Yep. Right. Like there'll be a memory glut.
Yeah.
That'll be the exact opposite.
And a GPU glut. And all of a sudden, you're going to be sitting there with your $5,000 laptop saying, you bought that for what?
Right. Well, or you'll be sitting there with your $1,000 laptop wondering why you can't upgrade the RAM, which is a shame, I guess. But I look. I wish Microsoft or maybe the PC world could market things like Apple does. But like one thing I think would be a good message that could come out of Microsoft, which is something Apple would have said at any given time with any update of anything, which is like, Windows 11, whatever it is, 26H2, because this is the one with all the efficiency stuff built into it, is like getting a new Windows in your PC, like is the way Apple would say it or whatever. Like you don't have to buy a new computer. You're going to feel like you have a new computer because it's going to run so much faster.
And the base configuration is going to be 32 or 64 gigs because RAM is so cheap.
Well, that will be the next one. Then that will be why you would upgrade, I guess. But
what, you didn't get 256 gig RAM in your laptop? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, boy, we can only dream. Yeah.
One more.
So I just real quick, because at some point this year, we're finally going to get these Google Book things. I think I mentioned this a week or two ago.
Did
Google, when they announced Google Book, and then at I/O, at least in the keynote, never said the thing I was looking for, which was, what is this thing really? But then if you watch some of the sessions, like I did it for I/O and Build, then a week later, they actually just say this outright. They're like, this is the next rendition. This is Chrome. It's Chrome OS. It's just like we're changing the underlying platform. It's going to be Android based completely now, but it is literally going to replace Chrome OS. And we're calling them Google Books, whatever, but this is a replacement, right? And and we're going to get these Android based laptops is how I would describe that, I guess. And this is similar in a way to what Apple did with iPadOS last year, but it's more than that, right? Because Google has had Chromebooks for many years, and they've been successful for certain audiences. It's done well in certain places, but of course they also sell billions of Android devices every year. So this is bringing Android into a new place. This is bringing Android into my place, meaning like where Windows is, and where Apple has a Mac, and so it becomes a little more important. So yesterday they released Android 17, and it's going out first on supported Pixels. There's one feature in here that I think is kind of interesting. One of the worst things I ever enabled on my Android phones, this would have been on a Pixel, and actually I just saw this past month or two. It's called Bubbles. And the way Bubbles have worked in Android, or at least on Pixel to date, has been you could use it in the messaging app. So what this means is, say my daughter, because this is how it happened for me, my daughter texts me, and you get a notification that comes down. You get like a little badge, I guess, on the icon right on the home screen. But you also get a little bubble. It's a circle on the screen. It's over everything that's with my daughter's face on it, because she texted me. And I think I enabled it to see what it was like.
Yeah, you can turn off chat bubbles. You don't have to have that.
I hate it so much. And you can
impair
do
my
a slight
functionality,
gesture where you
please?
kind of get rid of it. So what would happen is my daughter's face would pop up. You think this would give me great joy? It didn't. It annoyed the hell out of me. And I would swipe her away and swipe her away and swipe her away until I finally figured out how to go and turn it off. And so in Android 17, they're adding this capability for all apps, and so you can turn any app into a bubble, which is actually a way to multitask on a small screen.
We need bubble parity.
Yeah, it's bubble parity. Free the bubbles.
Free the bubbles. Yeah.
So it's not a little circle; it's a little floating window. I mean, I think it minimizes down to a circle or something, but it's like you can have a little floating window above whatever you're doing. So it's kind of like a way to do two things at once or whatever. But if you have a bigger screen device, which today is basically just like a folding device, there's actually a bubble like toolbar or floating little toolbar thing where all the apps that are bubbleable, if that's a word, can appear in this little thing on screen. And I wonder if this isn't going to be a, tablet / Google Book, laptop, whatever, UI of sorts, where it's just it's kind of like a new way to, I don't know how new it is, but a different way to multitask, which I think is interesting. I'm kind of curious now to see this, but
it's nice to see people trying stuff, right? You can always turn it off.
Yeah, I guess it's sort of like the Stage Manager thing that Apple did, where it's like, some people are like, oh, this is exactly what I want. And most people are like, oh, what is this thing? No, stop.
Yeah.
Like, So some people just latch right onto it, and then some people are like, oh, so we'll see. I don't know how successful this will be, but interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's the type of thing Windows users would not approve of.
It's kind of the one thing you don't really want in your operating system is interesting.
Yeah, I've spent a lifetime removing notifications and other annoyances, and you have found another way to float something above what I'm doing. This is not what I want you doing. Yes. That's for me.
There's always another pop-up.
But some people are like, nice. Maybe.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you don't know until you put it out there whether a UI improvements. The problem
there's always going to be someone who likes these things, right? The question is it going to be a mass market?
Just that person who made it, maybe their mother. But that's
exactly. I'm so proud of you. Oh, do you use them? No, it's terrible.
No.
My boy invented liquid glass. I'm so proud of him.
I hung it on the refrigerator.
I send him a message about it every day from my BlackBerry.
Mr. Alan Dye is such a good boy. Ladies and gentlemen, you have tuned in to the fabulous Windows Weekly program with Mr. Paul Thurrott, Mr. Richard Campbell. I just say that in case people stumble upon us and don't know what's going on.
Well, if you're like me, you suffer from short-term memory loss, so you have no idea who I am.
Who am I? What am I doing here?
Who is this man on the screen? Why is he in a bubble?
I feel it coming, It's like Game of Thrones. Winter is coming.
Yes.
I just feel it coming. The other day, Lisa and I are sitting there and I'm going, that thing I take every day, I put it in my water. What is it? It's called, what is it? It's for the muscles. It's good. It helps your memory.
The thing that helps my memory?
I can't remember it.
That's amazing.
And then 5 minutes later, we're in the middle of a meal. I go, creatine. And it's so sad.
Lisa's like, I've been asleep for 2 hours. What are you doing?
So sad.
I don't know if he's got memory loss or Tourette's. It's a sort of a split.
Creatine.
It's a good combination.
It helps your memory.
I heard myself getting out of bed. I heard my ankle going down the stairs here. Like I banged, not the normal way, like twisting it. I just banged it on like a stair.
Yeah.
And now right now I can feel it. It hurts right now.
Yeah.
I hurt. If I think too hard about a part of my body, it will start hurting.
Not to mock him, but Jeff Jarvis injured himself seriously making the bed.
I know. So I saw that. And by the way, 10 years ago, I would have made fun of that.
Yep.
When I saw him post about that, I was like, I get it. I was like, I'm not serious. I'm not going to make fun of this. I'm like, I could picture doing this.
Well, that's why I don't make the bed anymore.
That's right. Yes.
That's it.
It's a good excuse.
That's
anyway.
right. That's right.
Many household accidents begin with bed making.
Like, why do you ever make the bed? You're like, Jeff Jarvis, honey. Come on.
It's dangerous. All right, let's talk about software. That's next on the agenda. Mr. T?
Yeah, so just a couple things. App release, I normally don't have a place in the notes for this per se. Sometimes it'll be like, there's always an app pick, but sometimes there's like two or three things that happen. So it's like, I don't know how to handle this exactly. But sometime, a couple of months ago, Google announced that they were moving to a 2-week release cycle for Chrome. Yeah. Because everyone loves installing browser updates. And then,
most part, you don't notice them. They just happen, right?
Yeah. Well, sometimes you get the little prompt thing where it's like, hey, you should reboot and get the latest version. I guess if you just reboot,
if you leave it too long, that dot goes from green to yellow to red to flaming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when they did that, I speculated like Microsoft's going to have to do this for Edge. It's based on Chromium. It makes sense that it would follow the same release schedule, and it will. So they said starting in late August with version 152, they're going to move to a 2-week schedule for Edge as well. So, okay, that's fine.
Get a new build of Chromium, deploy a new version of Edge.
Yeah. It's just the way to do it, right? So there's nothing. It makes sense. Mozilla, which is on their own schedule, I think they might be still on a 6-week schedule somehow, but if not, it's 4 weeks. But I bet it's 6. They're obviously
feels like it's more often than that, even.
Yeah, that's why I said that. I feel like it might actually. Maybe there is 4 now, but
some of this might be because of Mythos. Like they keep finding bugs.
Yeah, this isn't why you do it like every 2 weeks, but if you think about it, if you want to spread out those bug fixes, rather than dump like 127 fixes in a single release, the more you do it, the better.
I think nowadays you want to do it as quickly as possible. Some of these are so many.
100%. And this is why, when I was talking about Windows up front, it's like, I feel very strongly security updates should be separate from feature updates every month, and that
I agree.
You can make a compelling case for why someone would have to install a security update right away.
Mm-hmm.
The feature one, it's like I don't know.
Feature.
It's just a feature. Like this could wait,
So for new features out of the browser, honestly.
But yeah, so browsers have been, browsers are all, what do they say? Edge is like version 152. And actually, coincidentally, Firefox just released Mozilla just released Firefox 152. So
weird.
Yeah. And look, it's a new settings interface, which looks great, by the way. You can get on a wait list now for that smart window feature, which I just got into, by the way. It's pretty cool. But they've been talking about a lot of the work they're doing. They're doing the pain points thing in a way. I mean, I think a lot of Firefox users either left because they couldn't take it anymore or have just been frustrated with Mozilla not doing what it is they want in this thing. And so they've been working very hard on this stuff. And I do like the way they're doing things. They're very transparent, et cetera, et cetera. So Firefox 152 is the latest in a string of releases where it's adding these things they've been talking about. But now they also have a public roadmap you can go look at what they're planning for the rest of the year and beyond, right? And there's some major things like that Nova user interface refresh, the smart window thing I mentioned, and then some other stuff that they haven't really talked about per se. So they have like a free VPN that's on the desktop version that's coming to mobile. There's containers for multiple accounts. There's power saving mode, for reducing the resource usage in tabs, which other browsers do, obviously. Lots of stuff. So if you care about Firefox, there is this new release, and they do have a roadmap so you can see, but not just see, but also provide feedback on what it is they're planning for future releases as well. So I think this is in keeping with the whole open source, we care about the community thing. So that seems good to me.
Yeah, I use Zen, so I'm at 151. I'm behind by one, but I guess I'll be getting it.
So Zen is
that's the Firefox spin.
This is the Arc-like Firefox, right?
Yeah, it's basically Arc.
Right.
Yeah, the more I use it, the more I like it. Yeah.
So I've been using, I talked about this last week.
Don't tell me about another browser.
No, well, it's the one I told you about last week. So Brave.
It's the one I ignored.
Yeah, Brave Origin.
Yeah.
Which I always want to call Brave Origins for some reason, like it's a new Spider-Man movie or something.
Starring Mel Gibson.
Yeah. It's Brave without all the Brave stuff in it, the Brave UI stuff, which I like. I still haven't got I don't think it's happened on iOS yet. I'm kind of curious about it on mobile. The one thing I do, I've talked about this Helium browser, which I love, but the one thing that two things that Helium doesn't have is any form of sync. And I mean, there's not even a way to export settings and import them. There's nothing. And that has to happen eventually. But there's also no mobile client. And mobile clients are tough because, Apple, especially, but Google too, restrict what you can do there. And I'm kind of hoping that changes. But Brave, has both. And so I don't know, I kind of go back and forth. But I've been using the Brave Origins thing has been good, I would have to say. So
I'm a fan because I liked Arc. I'm a fan of the
you like the tab thing on the side,
the vertical tabs, and then they also have these groupings that are so they have essentials, which is this.
What is this thing actually called? It's like a sidebar,
sidebar. The essentials are, I think you get 16 or it's 3x4, so 12 that never go away.
Right. These are like pins, basically.
Yeah, but then these are pinned, so you even have more pins.
That's right. I mean, but you can organize those in some order.
Right. I have coding, news, social, shopping, AI. So I
then you have a different sidebar for each thing if you want to have project-based sidebars, et cetera. Yeah.
No, when I'm doing my news gathering, I can go right there. And then, I mean, and it has little icons down here, but I never remember what anything is. So. I really like that organization, and then it slides out of the way when I'm on a page.
That's the thing. The thing I really like about it the most, honestly, is when it's not there. Which is a goofy thing to say. Like it's there when you need it, but when it's the typical browser UI takes up some space at the top. You get tabs, address bar, etc., or on the side, however you do it. But I like it not being there. Like I like having the whole screen for the thing you're looking at.
Well, and in fact, for the shows, I need a browser that has the least amount of. Chrome.
Yeah. You want to run it full screen, basically.
Yeah, I don't want any additional stuff. taking up space. So
of course,
Zen does that as well. So that's why I like it.
So this, I just want to be clear. You see, this is the essentially Arc for Firefox. This is it's Firefox.
It's a Firefox spin.
Yeah.
So it's very Firefoxy. In fact, like I said, it's at Firefox.
So it does benefit from what Mozilla puts in the Firefox, essentially.
Yeah.
Then you get the.
It's really, I think, just a UI on top of Firefox.
Yeah. Okay. That's useful.
And it it's a little, the nice thing about Chromium browsers, they seem like they're much faster, frankly.
If I said to you that, like, imagine you wake up tomorrow and Mozilla has purchased or acquired or whatever these people, and this is going to become Firefox.
I'd be
is
very
that happy, or is that okay?
No, I'd be very happy. Yeah. I like Mozilla. I would use Firefox plain, but I want these additional UI features.
Right. Yeah, that's why I asked. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I think that would be good. I think they should. Yeah.
This is the thing. It's an open source project, so people can take it. I mean, so is Chromium, but the problem is it's sort of quasi open source because of Google's involvement. Right. So when Google says no more Manifest v2 and uBlock Origin will never work again, everybody has to do it.
I feel like 100% of the companies or organizations that use Chromium, the first thing on their bullet point is get rid of all the Google stuff. Even though it's stripped down compared to Chrome, but like. But you can, I think they kind of try to hide it or
There's
whatever.
an ungoogled Chromium, but that's very different than Chromium. Chromium
doesn't make any sense. It should be completely de-Googlified.
No, but it's not, because guess who runs the Chromium team? Guess who the engineers are?
They all have Google.com email addresses. I know that,
Yeah, they all work for Google. So, there's an ungoogled Chromium. But again, I want the sync. And this has sync. It uses Firefox sync. So
that's right. So Firefox does their own sync thing. That's great. The one thing I like about Brave, one of the things I really like about Brave, which is a little off-putting at first for people who just don't understand it, is that they have sync, but it's not account-based. Brave does not have your account information. You're doing peer-to-peer sync. So
it has this big long string of things.
I know, it's crazy. Yeah. It's a 25-word thing. I email it to myself all the time.
Right.
It's like when I have a new browser. Right. But it's not controlled by any organization. It's not. It's never going to be attacked. No one can get it.
I really like it. Yeah,
I like that.
I think that they've got that down. I think that's quite good. There's a lot of things to like about Brave, but I like
things not to like too. I mean,
I just basically want to support something besides Chromium.
Right.
Brave's based on Chromium. I think there should be other browser standards. Yep. So let's talk about the big AI segment on today's show.
I am delighted to announce. I mean it. Like, delighted. I went over the last weeks of news twice because I was like, this can't be right. There is no major AI news that impacts our audience anyway.
Well, Paul, the biggest AI story is maybe the biggest tech story of all time.
Right. Which does not impact Windows.
But it doesn't impact Windows users at all, which tells you something.
Who cares? And plus, I hate Elon Musk, so I just don't care.
No, that's not the cursor story. I'm talking about Fable. I'm talking about the White House.
Fable Mythos shut down.
Oh, I thought you were actually talking about the SpaceX IPO. Okay.
Oh, SpaceX IPO. Thing, last week was a crazy week. But the acquisition of, the blocking of Fable by the White House is a huge, in my opinion, if you think AI is important and the most powerful AI model out there, and there's no in my mind, question about
being
that.
Like Mythos Light is somehow still scary.
Yeah, I think Mythos is a bigger deal than Fable. Fable's public facing. Mythos was fixing software.
No, but let's be clear. It's the same model. Yeah. The only difference is Fable has more blocks, more safety blocks, has classifiers.
Guardrails. Yeah. It has more guardrails.
But I'm saying the impact of shutting down Mythos when all of these companies are trying to fix their software.
Right,
it's a huge
that
story.
Actually, right. So that's okay. That's fair. All right,
but don't worry because we're going to be covering it in just a little bit on Intelligent Machines. In fact, there's a website called freefable.org.
Nice.
I love
makes a very strong case for why it is wrong for a government to block it, and the guy who wrote it is Alex Stamos, who we know very well. Alex is a very well-known security guy. He'll be our guest at 2 p.m. to explain why this is an issue. Mike Masnick on Tech Dirt today, I think, gave us the smoking gun that it's actually political. And it's
by the way, what
a shock.
This is why I didn't write about it.
It's actually worse than political. It's peak on the part of the president. based on, it's a long story. We'll tell it at 2 p.m.
So, look, if you're looking for like a shining star of light in the darkness that is our world right now, the thing to remember when it comes to politics is that like everything terrible this guy's done has been reversed by some court or some, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, pretty much like it's 90-something percent, 97%. It's a high number. And, the terribleness is always going to be temporary. So,
I don't think this is illegal. I think the Commerce Department does have the right to say, foreign.
But I also have no. I
uses.
figured on Monday, Anthropic would have filed a case if they were going to do anything about it. But
and they
it doesn't
didn't.
look like they have.
They're trying to negotiate out of it.
Anthropic might consider moving to the EU. Just throwing it out there.
Well, this is what's going to happen is that this is now a clarion call to China, the EU, and everybody else. You better come up with some AI models that the U.S. cannot shut down because you're always going to be at risk of that.
Yeah, there was news that China probably did gain access to Mythos at some point.
Almost inevitably.
If briefly, I don't know. But
access to using it. I don't think access to stealing it.
Sorry.
Having used Fable for 2 days, it was clearly head and shoulders
so this was
above anything out there.
This was personally big news for you. That's true. You were... That's true.
I was rewriting our Twit sales system. I was in the middle of it and it said, this model no longer available. It's like, what? Did I not pay my bill?
Look, the feel-good AI story of this year, well, I guess there are a couple, but the big one to me was just starting with Firefox, using this to fix problems at a time when hackers are increasingly going to use AI to cause problems.
Yep.
Is so smart and so necessary and so great, you know?
Well, and I don't think it's a coincidence that Microsoft had its largest Patch Tuesday in history last week.
It's not coincidence. It's not at all coincidence.
So these are all very, very good things.
Yep.
And now they've impaired it?
That have been completely shut down.
It's weird because I can defend almost anything else our government does. No, wait.
Well, that's why it's lost. You don't see any news coverage of it. It's too technical and it's completely lost.
We've been beaten over the head.
People are like more worried about the color of the reflecting pond than they are about what I think is hugely consequential from a technology point of view.
Yeah.
But it's a technology story, and I don't think they really. Most people go, so what? I still got ChatGPT. What's the big deal?
That's fair.
So anyway, I don't want to ruin your perfect record. There will be no AI talk on this show.
No, it's fine. I just didn't see an angle from.
No, there is an angle, and we're going to cover. That's why we have an AI show.
You're right.
We have an AI show.
You are correct.
This is Windows Weekly, ladies and gentlemen. Do not mistake it, Mr. Paul Thurrott, Mr. Richard Campbell, and now the thing really you care the most about.
Oh, we're jumping to whiskey?
No. Xbox, dude. Xbox.
Yes.
The other drug.
There's no theme song for whiskey. There's theme song for Xbox, though.
Play the Xbox theme.
Okay, but you have a standalone thing now. I mean, I don't know. If we're competing, I feel like
It's
you're doing
not
pretty
a
good.
competition, Paul. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Master Chief, it's time for the Xbox segment.
Yeah, there's a lot of Xbox news. A lot of it.
Boy.
Most of
it's
the
getting
time, very
ugly
good
in
news. Yeah. So, look, we've been talking about this to some degree, but I feel like it's going to get worse. I don't know. I would say ever since the pandemic ended, the pandemic never really ended. It kind of just drifted off there, or at least our attention span did. But the video game market has been tanking, right? We all know this. There's been studio closures, layoffs, all kinds of stuff. A big problem all around. I mean, and Xbox as I don't know. I hate to say it this way, but in some ways, the smallest player and the smallest part of the video game market has suffered incommensurately and to some degree. I mean, it's just the way it is. They had the Phil Spencer and that Sarah Bond and that leadership group that were doing what they could do within the confines of the company that owns this business and, trying to make sense of it, et cetera. I don't want to discount the good that Phil Spencer did because he made Xbox make sense to Microsoft during the cloud era, convincing Satya Nadella that this would work, and this is Game Pass, right? We've had the studio acquisitions turning Xbox from kind of a console first business into more of a game studio publisher business where Mojang first, small Minecraft, but influential. And then Bethesda with all that stuff. They own id and whatever else they own, everything. There's a bunch of stuff in there. And then, of course, Activision, Blizzard. And today, and I think it was Asher Sharma who said this, Xbox, as we now call it, all capital letters, is the second biggest game publisher on earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
By nature, to be that thing, you have to be cross-platform. It's just the way it is. But we also know that we're having a flurry of Richard Campbell promo images through the Discord.
Joe Esposito's going
Joe's just gone off.
Incredibly distracting because they are spectacular.
He's going insane.
Destroyed my distractedness. These are fantastic. Sorry. I'm derailing myself. So that's what I do.
Well, you have a theme song. He's got billboards. That's fair.
So,
by the way, I love the one he's got Clippy on his T-shirt sitting out in the loch.
I feel like we need to get him that T-shirt. So, anyway, look, the comparison I've made at some point, I don't remember where I made this now, but because it was like 2 days ago and I can't remember that far back. But we have talked about how when Satya Nadella came in and became the CEO of Microsoft, sort of the dynamic there. And Steve Ballmer has talked about this more recently, is that he basically continued what Microsoft was already doing under Steve Ballmer. The whole cloud first thing started with Ballmer.
Mm-hmm.
But because Ballmer was a known quantity, had been down on certain things for so long, or had promoted certain things for so long, the message was never going to fly if it came from him,
Yeah. No, that was just an acknowledgement of that was the reality, right?
Yep.
He was going to be an impediment to Microsoft becoming cloud-centric.
Right. And many, many leaders of companies would have had too big of an ego to have done what he did, and just step down and let it happen, And so Microsoft's, market cap, well, for you guys, I guess, market cap and net worth essentially has skyrocketed in the Satya Nadella by doing what Steve Ballmer was doing, right? It's kind of an interesting thing. I feel like there's something to this with this leadership change at Xbox, right? That logically speaking, you could say, look, this is the world the way it is. This is what we have. This is how it's going. This is what we were going to do. What would you change? And the answer is nothing. You're doing what you can do. And I've said this many times. I feel like these guys, this new team, there's not much you can do big changes. You're not going to do some major left turn thing and save the business. You're going to continue down the same path. And the problem is that may not work, right? There may be no saving this, and for all kinds of reasons. Microsoft is a big company. For this to make sense, there are parts of Xbox or all of Xbox that might make sense as a standalone entity, or as smaller companies where, a game doesn't sell particularly well, but that's fine for a smaller company. It might not be fine over here at Microsoft, or however you want to phrase this, And I feel like what we've seen is a very public rationalization on her part and her leadership team's part, Asher Sharma, that is, of them trying to understand this process, right? I like how public they've been about what they're doing and what they're thinking even, right? Phil Spencer was good at this too, but like just kind of, and they've made a couple of, I don't know, Xbox fan-centric decisions, to cheer people. Like we're going to do another console, which they're already doing, or, making people happy with that kind of stuff. But the reality is, this business is still what it is, and it has the same fundamental problems. Like a woman, in this case, or a new person running the show doesn't change any of this. Like she still has to, it's still what it is. And so Microsoft's fiscal year ends on June 30, so it's less than 2 weeks away, or about 2 weeks away. Microsoft's next fiscal year starts on July 1st. And this is the time when we historically make big changes, including things like layoffs and so forth. So it's hard to know, separate the kind of fact from rumor at this point. A lot of stuff is going on, but she's talked about things like having a big reset over the next, whatever it is. She had the first 100 days. I think that was her evaluating the business. The next 100 days are going to be about this reset.
Was she brought in to be the hatchet person?
See, it's interesting you say that, because within the past 24 hours, I read something about her where that thought went through my brain finally, like, wait a minute. What if this is why she was brought in?
She's the Nick Bilton. of
Oh,
Xbox.
jeez, God, I hope not. That's a terrible,
very
sadly accurate.
reference.
Yeah, Nick, he's running 60 Minutes.
And a former Twit panelist, which cracks me up.
Was he was he a New York Times guy or something?
And when he was at the tech guy at New York Times, we had him on Twitter all the time.
Yeah, and not as beloved on that side. But well, we'll see what happens. But look, I've made the point that if you think about Xbox as a game publisher, it is what I would you could say is just Activision. I mean Activision plus Bethesda plus Mojang, I guess, or whatever, right? Plus Xbox, whatever the studio games you already had, but Activision essentially is a profitable business, right? They sell for all the platforms. They do whatever they do. It's good, Activision never did any kind of a Game Pass type thing. They were never going to do that. They just came up with big games and sold them. That was their business. It worked great. They had no interest in the stuff that and some of the stuff that Xbox has done with them, and now is starting to back away from, right, with Call of Duty.
But you also got the whole Blizzard line, which was World of Warcraft, the recurring revenue model. Like they had both businesses. Yeah,
but they didn't have like an all-in, all-up, however you want to say it, subscription service. They didn't have Activision Online where it was everything. They would do it for individual franchises where it made sense.
I never got the sense that they unified those entities together at all. Like that was never a thing. Blizzard was Blizzard, Activision was Activision.
Yeah, that could be. I'm speaking from just looking at Call of Duty, I guess. It's been different years, and the strategy has changed a little bit, but for quite a while, they moved to this model where, you buy there'd be a new Call of Duty game every year. To make that happen, they had to have 3 different studios working on these games. They got so big and they're expensive to make and they're hard to make, but they would sell you a game. And for a long time, that game was $50 and then $60,
$80.
And you played it for a year. But they would also have these downloadable content drops, right? These map packs DLCs. And other things, DLCs, right? So for several years, they had I think they call it like a season pass at one point or whatever, where you could spend $60 on the game, but then you could spend another $60 on that season pass, and you would just get those things as they came out.
Right. Plus a few extras, that kind of thing.
So that's not a subscription service, but it is it's a way to make money from that
double
audience
for a product,
every year. Yeah. So you go from $60 a year for a big part of the fan base, because there are hundreds of millions of people that buy this game. And then you double it by having the season pass, and then you get it to Microsoft, and it's like, we just start in the Game Pass, and we'll make it up with volume or something. I don't know what the theory was, but it just didn't work out, right? Obviously. So, look, there are going to be layoffs. There's no doubt about it. There are going to be studio closures. There are going to be games that are canceled. If they do go forward with this next console, which they say they are, it's going to be expensive. Right? We just talked about all this Kubota crisis stuff. I mean, this is all a problem, right? So I do feel like over the past 2 weeks or so, they've been kind of setting the stage for what's to come. So we haven't had the ball drop, so to speak, yet. We don't have all the details. But there's some weird stuff going on. So I don't know if it was 2 weekends ago. I guess not last weekend, but the weekend before was the game showcase they did, which was great. At least one of the games they announced is probably not happening now. They literally showed it off like this month. And that's the third Hellblade game, the Shenmue title that is from Ninja.
And it just speaks to a lack of a plan then, for some reason.
I do feel like a lot of this is a lack of a plan. You always think like the people who are in charge of whatever it is, businesses or countries or whatever, know what they're doing, and they must be smarter than me in some way or something. Like I struggle to understand how Call of Duty, especially, but Activision, Blizzard, whatever, would make sense financially within Microsoft and within Xbox and within the Game Pass system. And it's hard to really come up with, this is how many they have to sell for that to make sense, because you don't really have all the numbers to do that math. But I never saw it making sense. I don't mean to say it's gratifying to be proven right. I actually wanted to be proven wrong on that one. But what eventually happened was what I thought should have happened from the beginning, was like, this will never make sense. We have to pull Call of Duty out of the system. It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Maybe Game Pass can make sense without Call of Duty. Maybe Call of Duty makes more sense without Game Pass. Whatever. So this is just a bunch of just the bad news. And we are also coming back to this kind of thought that maybe this thing should be spun off, or maybe parts of it
always comes around every so often.
Yep. And this is something I've debated myself over possibly 20 years, that would Xbox be better or worse without Microsoft? From a kind of branding perspective, it doesn't make a lot of sense within Microsoft.
We've had times that they've talked about, the phone experience, the PC experience, the living room experience, right? And that Xbox
and by the way, I think those are all attempts that happen over a period of time to make that thing make sense within the Microsoft of that day, right?
Yeah.
Look, we're so critical of this stuff, but you have to understand there are people who mean well and hopefully are smart, but they're trying to make sense of it within the context of what they have to work with. And so, like, we go back to like the Xbox One, and this was when they said, it's like, oh, it's an entertainment machine. It's not just games. It's going to be video and music and blah, 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 whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not because they hated video games. They were trying to make it work,
Yeah.
And it failed, but I feel like if they'd stayed doing what they're doing, that was going to fail too.
They also punted on the dev side of gaming too. They for a while they had, was it XDR, where they had a stack you could work through Studio to deploy to the Xbox.
That's right.
At one point, they probably could have bought Unity, but never did, and God knows he couldn't now. And again, that would be another angle of rationalization of, hey, we're about developers and developers make games, like make that part of it as well. But I mean, your argument's sound, and I think in the sense of Xbox has never been weaker as a connection to Microsoft as it is right now.
Yeah,
like they're even calling her a CEO for crying out loud.
I know. Well, interesting. So we often talk about how tough it was for Windows when Microsoft was very cloud-centric. It didn't really fit into that world, Mm-hmm. And you see these sort of, I would call them semi-tenuous connections, right? Like Windows 365. Yes, there's a business use case for this, just as there's always been for things like terminal server or whatever. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. But this was not going to be the future Windows, not anytime soon. And it's just, I feel like it's something that happened because it had to happen because we're cloud now, and that's what we do, and it has to be on Azure and, that kind of stuff. Game Pass, but in a way, because subscription service, but I would say game streaming especially is failed. But trying to make sense of it being a cloud thing, and it's like, it's kind of tenuous.
So is Xbox real sin that it doesn't have a good AI story now? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it is, actually. That's my point. Like, that's the interesting thing about the AI era now at Microsoft is that Windows becomes important again. And that's kind of neat for me personally, because that's what I care about. So great. Okay, yay. I don't like most of what they've done with AI in Windows for sure, but that's not really the point. The point is Windows is getting attention. And we also know it's getting some good attention, right, with the pain point stuff. So this has been a good year for Windows. What are you doing? I mean, other than using AI to make games, which, by the way, no one wants to know you're doing or hear that you're doing that. They hate it so much. Yes. And I don't understand that.
If you don't do it, you don't stay in business.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the reality.
It blows my mind how the one thing, not the one thing, but one of the things that would benefit the most from AI, the creation of games, right? For all the reasons we've already discussed, the multiplayer maps that are like the best maps ever made, or the open world games where it's like infinite number of side quests and new towns and people and scenarios and whatever it is. AI would make this so much better. And my God, this audience is like, don't you dare mention AI. Don't you dare do this.
For better or worse, the way those tools have been presented has made it very easy for everyone to hate it.
Yes. Oh, the marketing
instead of being augmentation to talented people to make great things, it's been replacing everybody.
You have. I feel like there are people. This is like it's like the Red Scare in the 1950s, right? In Hollywood, where they blacklist actors because of whatever for made up things mostly. Where there are, I feel like people are booting up games to be like, oh, I think that might be AI generated. Let's complain about it. And then there are multiple examples of game studios admitting to this, apologizing, and then pulling it out so they can have human beings recreate the artwork or whatever it is, the assets, to please these people And I'm sorry, you just made this business unprofitable. It is,
and I've seen whole game studios are like everything hand done, everything human done. Like that's the thing.
Look, there will always be that. We'll call it artisanal. Maybe that's not a good word for this, but there'll always be that thing. There are very fun games that look like they were drawn by hand or something. They have a cute, a nice kind of visual style that feels handmade, or maybe not old. I don't mean to say old fashioned, but kind of classic look to them, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
Where made by hand.
If you're really serious about making games, you'd be picking up the electrons one at a time with chromium tweezers and sticking them in the USB key. This using keyboards and computers, it's all cheating. It's not real.
Wait, I'm sorry. You're not programming in zeros and ones?
Yeah.
What are you, some kind of heretic?
Come on.
Why don't you care about the hardware? I don't get this. I have a big problem with this. But anyway, this is the world Microsoft's trying to navigate, or in this case, I guess Xbox.
And could have led in, and it doesn't seem to be what's happening.
No. So we're having these conversations again, ahead of what will no doubt be massive layoffs. The CEO and chief of staff of Xbox Game Studios, which is their game publishing arm, which is, I think, most of the business, just resigned. They were
probably just
out of the blue.
Did you get an offer to resign rather than be fired, or did he choose not to be a part of the layoffs?
Yeah, probably both, right?
Yeah.
Or one or both, right? Okay, and these are people who both of them came from Rare, the game studio. They've been at the job for less than a year and a half. Okay, so there's that. Great. There was a report in The Verge, I think yesterday, and it only cited a single source, which I hate, but I feel like anyone could forward an email. Okay, fair enough, whatever. But supposedly they have closed Ninja Theory, which is the game studio, the game games publisher that makes Hellblade, right? Mm-hmm. They're one of 3 that have been recently rumored to be closing. But it's not clear if it's actually happening, because since then I've seen other stories that had said that these studios are now negotiating with Xbox/Microsoft to either become independent, buy the company out and just go with their own thing, become a smaller thing. The other 2, by the way, I'm sorry, Double Fine and Compulsion. Double Fine made Psychonauts, right? That I think it's a series of games. I don't believe I've ever played them. And then We Happy Few, which is kind of one of those fun cartoony looking games, was Compulsion games. None of this is official. None of this has been announced. But the Ninja Theory one, like I said, is kind of weird because they just showed off the third Hellblade game.
Yeah.
There is this. Phil Spencer used to speak about this. If you look up this company, I'm not going to remember the years. I don't remember numbers like this, but the first 2 games came out over a period of many years. The first one might have been 2004 or something. The second was like 2017. I'm getting that wrong. Maybe it's 2017, whatever the numbers are. But they're not like every year or 2 or 3. They're kind of spread out, and that might be part of the problem too, right? One of the things with Xbox is they've gone through entire holiday seasons. They've gone through console launches where they didn't have any marquee titles to bring out for the thing, for their latest console. This is kind of a big problem. Like you own all these studios. Like, what are they doing? You got to get games out too,
Yeah, I presume there was a plan to pull all these entities together.
Yeah.
I think it was to rationalize Game Pass, right? I mean, this whole push was to get recurring revenue into Xbox.
Yes, right. Look, I mean, fundamentally, a major component of any subscription service is that some percentage of that population is paying you every month or every year or whatever it is for something they do not use ever, right?
Yes.
A lot of people will pay for these things because they think they're going to use it and don't, or they think they might need it, but then they never do. Or in the case of Xbox Game Pass, when it originally was announced, it was, people forget what this was like, but if you think back to the beginning of Netflix as an online service, this was a thing that they used to mail red envelopes to your house with a disc in it, and you'd play a DVD and you ship it back, and you could get 2 at a time or something, and whatever the deal was, who cares? But then they added this subscription service as kind of like an add-on thing, and it was a monthly cost. It was cheap. The content they had in the beginning was terrible, and it was not even B level, it was like C level content, right? It was like filler mostly. Over time, they developed it and turned it into something pretty special, honestly, and now they're screwing it up with price hikes and whatever else. But the deal for Xbox was a little bit better because there were still lots of really good games out there that just weren't making money now because we've moved on. It's been 2, 3, 5, whatever number of years. Those studios have made later games, newer games, whatever, and those are selling. But they have this IP or these games that are just sitting there not making money. And so Microsoft could go to these companies and say, look, just throw this thing in Xbox Game Pass, and we'll give you some percentage. Look, it might be low, but it's more than zero. You know, it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't hurt you
You're not
to do
making
this.
anything now.
Yeah. And I always kind of appreciated that because I feel like gaming, I don't know if it's totally unique, but semi-unique in that there is this body of content out there that most people have never seen and might be delighted by in many cases, and maybe that's how they
strong nostalgic pull. But I think Steam owns that space so much more deeply than Microsoft does.
But this, people compared Game Pass to like a Netflix of gaming, which is slightly inaccurate if you want to be pedantic, which is the best way of being right. Which meaning you weren't streaming those games, right? I mean, you can stream some of them now, but you actually, one of the weird problems with Game Pass was that you had to download these games, some of which are humongous, and then you would try them, and maybe you didn't like it, and they were like, "Great, I spent a half a day on this, and now I'm not going to play it," and they just delete it, move on to the next one, whatever. It's kind of
better than buying it and then finding out you're not going to play it.
100%, 100%. Yes. So,
and either way, you never own the game.
Right. But look, I'm an outlier with this, but I feel like for a lot of people, you play a game once and you're done and you move on to the next thing anyway. So if you can get that thing as part of a subscription, and the cost of that subscription over the period of time you would have played the game, which is often going to be less than a month anyway, is only at the time, we'll call it $7.99 and $9.99, whatever the cost was in the beginning, less than the cost of the game. So why not? Plus you have you've got that, rainy day thing going on in the background. They also have this catalog of hundreds and eventually maybe more games where you're like, well, you never know, I might want to play these other games too. So, it starts to make sense. And then they make it better and better over time. We were going to get all of the Xbox or Microsoft at the time, Microsoft Game Studio games, day and date, right, with their release. So they would sell it at retail if you wanted just to buy it. But you could also, if you had this Game Pass subscription, get it as part of your subscription, which was an awesome perk. It was nice. So like a Gears of War game or whatever would come out. Halo Infinite wasn't awesome, but when that game came out, you just got it. Like you just got it for your subscription. I think a lot of people would have bought that thing, found it, they hated it, and would have been like, why did I spend $60 on it? But if it's part of that $9.99 a month thing, who cares? Like you just like, okay, I downloaded it, I hated it, I good, now I know. If you did want to buy a game later, because games sometimes would go off Game Pass, you could get a discount when you bought it, just by being a Game Pass subscriber. There was a lot of goodness there, is my point.
Yeah, and then it was a justification for buying studios and adding to the catalog and so on.
Until you spent too much on one studio with one blockbuster game that never made
years
sense.
Worth of
I know,
legal.
yeah, and just yikes. So,
are we really going to lay the Blizzard Activision acquisition as breaking the back of Spencer's plan? Is that what this is?
Yes. Well, I mean, look, he made a big bet, and Microsoft, I mean, ultimately Satya Nadella, Microsoft made a big
Satya
bet.
signed the check in the end.
Yeah, right? That this would make, in other words, but someone had to present them with some chart or spreadsheet or something that said, look, here's how it's going to work. And I feel like part of that was this thing breaks even and then becomes profitable at X number of subscribers. And they never hit those numbers.
No.
And then you raise prices and then you lose members.
Subscribers.
And it becomes a big problem, right?
Yeah. And this all came down middle of last year. And that's, somewhere in October, Spencer started making noises about retiring and then went offline for months. Right.
Which you may recall, we
talked about it.
I noticed it. And I was like,
it was weird.
This is a guy who has spent his entire time running Xbox in the public eye, never stopped talking about it. And I'm like, I don't think I've heard from this guy in months. Yeah. And then I looked it up and I hadn't. He hadn't said anything. Yeah. And that was suspicious to me.
Except it was right at the time when he started making noises about retirement.
Right. So, it's in our industry, and probably in just history in general, but in our industry, especially in the world of Microsoft, however you want to hone it down, there is a never-ending series of what ifs that are fascinating to some degree.
Yeah.
And we can debate they shoulda, whatever. But
we're suspicious of Asha Sharma's situation here. There's a hell of a chain of promotions for her. She's a young executive, no two ways about it, right? She's not even 40. She's sitting as CEO of. If she's got the nerve to actually spin this thing off, or to actually turn it into anything, bully for her. Like, holy cow, man, that's a big deal. Not to just punk along.
Well, I made this point up front. In some ways, if she is the Satya Nadella to Steve Ballmer in this scenario, she's the new face who can push something through that maybe we all saw happening, but no one there could have
actually got the nerve to say, this isn't working, let's fix it.
Look, she's one of two things. She either literally is a patsy put in place to be the public face of this downfall because who cares about her anyway, or there was a good faith. We're gonna fresh eyes evaluate.
You
this
want
business.
The brass ring? Here's the brass ring.
Yeah, take the 100 days. Come back with what you think needs to happen.
I just did the math. It's at 114 as of today.
Okay, so my guess, my prediction, however you want to say, my bet is on the that is what I said up front, sort of, which is I don't think there's no secret that she's going to uncover that makes this make sense. It faces the same problems it always has.
Was true the whole time.
I don't have a answer, of any kind that I can give that this is what they should do. I think everyone has these opinions, but I don't. None of us know enough about the logistics of this gigantic business. I can't make sense.
Like, why pick Ninja, right? Like, what's their sin?
I don't know. I mentioned the Phil Spencer thing, the quote he was talking about when they were doing. He said this in the context of layoffs. He's like, we at the time, his business or his leadership team evaluated these studios. And they were like, guys, you've been sitting there for we've been throwing resources at you for 2 years. You haven't produced a game. What are you doing? And maybe it's some of that, maybe it's a little bit slow. I don't know.
But in general, with these bigger titles, 2 to 3 years is the norm, which is, again, terrible for revenues when you're supposed to be posting income every year.
Right.
But, this is the dynamic of studios.
Somebody, Sony had some massive write-down related to Bungie, right? So Bungie is a company that started in the 1990s. I think their first game, but if it wasn't their first game, certainly their first big game was a Marathon, which came a year after Doom, was very Doom-like, but for the Mac only at the time. And then they were going to release this Halo game on Windows and Mac. And Steve Jobs introduced them and showed them off at a Macworld, I think 2000, 2001, whatever year that was. And it was a big deal because the Mac was not, and is still not, a big game platform. Microsoft snapped them up, turned Halo into a launch title for the first Xbox, which was awesome. They did release it eventually on Mac and on Windows too, actually, the first one. But it became, the kind of franchise, the big franchise for Xbox. The first 3 Halo games were fantastic. I would also throw in ODST and Halo Reach, probably. I didn't play that one too much, but those are all the Bungie games that were great. And then they split off. Remember, they did their own thing. So Microsoft kept Halo, and Bungie went and did what's the thing called? What's the big Bungie game? Whatever it is, they made 2 of them. Whatever the game is,
Marathon.
No, the previous 2. Why can't I think of this? I'm so bad with this Bungie.
If only there was a technology that could answer this question.
If only I had like a service Destiny thing.
Oh, Destiny, yeah.
Destiny and Destiny 2 to me were so Halo-like. Like I was like really bothered by how Halo-like they were. Bungie has had a lot of legal issues, by the way. They were sued for stealing the story. The story of Destiny, the original one, was very much like 2 Twilight Zone episodes as well, apparently, or something like that. But anyway, they went off on their own. I think they linked up with Activision Blizzard, by the way, for a little while as a publisher. They bought themselves out of that. They got sold to Sony. But another example of a studio that kind of just sat there and didn't do much at all over a long period of time, certainly didn't recoup Sony's investment, and had legal issues where they had to settle in one major case because they stole the ideas for one of the games. And someone says to me, why would Microsoft let Sony buy this company? They should have bought them back. And it's like several years after they broke up with this company, they have at the time, 343 Industries, now Halo Studios, making these games. Hundreds of people working on this stuff. They're driving the shift to a standard game rendering engine instead of this proprietary one that Bungie had made it no one knows how to use. I don't think that would have worked. I don't think that would have. That's not the silver bullet.
No easy way back.
I think by letting is a strong word, but not worrying about that, and Sony buys them, they just cost one of their biggest competitors a lot of money. That actually worked out great for Microsoft. Mm-hmm. I think Bungie coming back to Microsoft would have been a huge mistake, but that's like one of a million little what ifs. Like, what if they only just kept Bungie? And it's like Bungie did not want to be there.
No,
they were done with Microsoft.
Yeah.
To the tune of we gave up the biggest thing we ever did to walk away from this. I don't have answers is my point.
Most game makers I know want to make new games, right? Like they don't even want to make sequels. The corporation wants them to make sequels. Developers don't. They want to make new things.
Yeah, right. Unfortunately, Bungie just kept making the same thing over and over again. And then, Marathon, Marathon looks interesting. I mean, I was excited to see it was coming back. Has not sold well, I guess. I've never tried it. Maybe I'm part of the problem. I don't know, but we'll see what happens there. I don't know. So look, like I said, we've got less than 2 weeks or 2 weeks-ish to the end of the fiscal year. I think the next 4 weeks are going to be bad. And we're still suffering that post-pandemic hangover thing where Xbox, the whole video game industry, the whole technology industry, like kind of overhired, overspent because everyone was staying home and spending money on this stuff, and then they weren't, and they just had to overcorrect to fix it. And we thought we were done, but we're not done. And you can see it in Nintendo and Sony, both of which are underperforming now. And Microsoft, or Xbox, I should say, is the smallest part of that part of the business. Is experiencing it too. It's going to be bad. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm wondering, spin it off, split it up, sell off pieces. There's a bunch of things you can do. Or, the other aspect of this is often the best way to get new funding in a new mission is to threaten to end it all.
Yeah, right.
Right. How you negotiate with leadership actually is to construct a plan that ends it and then say, double dog dare you. And see if you don't get another round of funding and a new mission.
When is this? When are they going to reveal?
All of this has to be resolved by the end of fiscal. Really?
Yeah, I would say sometime between now and the end of the fiscal year, and then you could that
would be a whole 13 days, friends. 13 days.
So, it's probably going to be a bloodbath, I think is the point.
I think it's going to be.
The other problem is, even for the people that want that next console, the ones that are excited about this for whatever reason. It's not happening this year, right? Like when they're talking about like by the end of 2027, they don't mean releasing it. They mean releasing the first developer dev kits.
Yeah.
For game makers.
They're going to take 2 years to make a game.
This is so far out. I don't know how you tread water for this long, but it's a problem.
But you're speaking realistically here. It's like you aren't going to see the launch of that till Christmas of 29 with a couple of titles.
Yeah. So, which is why, when they did the game showcase about 10 days ago, whatever that was, you see what they've got coming up mostly this year and then into early next year. And it's like, okay, this is a strong lineup. This looks great. These games look good. There's a lot of personality and stuff. It's nice, but that's software. That's games, That's the thing that this business should be good at, right? They have so much IP, so many good franchises, right?
Yeah.
The hardware's always been I keep saying it. I don't mean to just keep repeating myself, but I can't stress this enough. If they just didn't make hardware, this thing would be hugely successful. Maybe this thing you spin this thing off as Xbox, okay, but how do you sell hardware and then compete with your partners?
Yeah.
You're going to sell hardware, but also make games for PlayStation and Nintendo, right? Which you have to do as a game publisher to make sense.
Yep.
What are you doing?
You created an irreconcilable conflict to yourself.
Yeah,
You're either an ineffective
this is
game
why HAL
studio or you're
9000 went
undermining your
insane. You
hardware.
couldn't rectify it, you know?
Well, and this is why Phil played the game of everything's an Xbox. Stop worrying about the hardware.
Right. Which, by the way, as much as people hated that, was the right answer, for the business. I mean, but
well, it was an answer. It was a way to rationalize the problem.
yes, I mean, right. In other words, I was going to say, given the cards that you were dealt, but it's more like given the cards you dealt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
How does this make sense? That's how it makes sense. I don't know. I don't know. Like I said,
as much as we're poking at Microsoft for the situation they're in, the whole games industry is struggling too.
Yes, I think it's right. That's an important point. And the problem I just mentioned with Bungie and Sony, right? This is two very high profile, successful companies struggling badly.
Yep.
Nintendo not going to sell as many Switch 2s or cartridges,
but have also kept. It's almost they've anticipated the shrinkage a bit better. They play a tighter ship. They can tolerate fluctuations better. The folks that are thriving are the indie gamers, right? The best titles you're seeing, stuff that people love to play right now, coming through Steam. 3 or 4 people.
So 2 things.
Working in Unity.
Yep. This parallels the conversation I had earlier about we're all the industry together is suffering, but good leadership matters too, right? Mm-hmm. And market dominance, right? And so when you have companies like Sony and Nintendo that have done a better job than Xbox historically, they're going to be better positioned to weather this storm. Okay, so that's part of it. But I don't know. It's like you get everything you want and it's terrible. Like I don't know how to, you would think Microsoft acquires Activision Blizzard and it's like happy days are here again. And the next year was the worst year ever, and it's probably going to get worse right now. Yeah. It's bizarre. Like I can't explain these things. I can't explain anything. That's my problem these days. I love being able to explain things and I hate when I can't. And I can't. I try and I just don't understand. I don't know. I don't see an answer here.
No.
Well, let's see if we can get past the bad news. Nope. No. So beyond that stuff.
Should we rename this to the PlayStation 5 segment maybe? I'm just thinking.
No.
Could have had a PS5.
It's like the Xbox Death Watch. No.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's things are still happening. Xbox is going to be at Gamescom this year. This is the annual show they have in Cologne, Germany, I believe. They're going, I guess. I mean,
it's like, the question is who's going? How many airline tickets and hotel reservations just got changed?
Laurent told me this morning that this was happening, and I was like, as a reminder, Commodore went to CES in 1993, the year they declared bankruptcy. Yeah. So, I don't know, or 94, whatever year that was. So we'll see what happens there. Maybe who knows? But, by that point, they might have more to show off. We have Xbox console updates occurring both generally in the form of the June Xbox update and then through the Insider program. I talked about a minor one last week. There was another minor one this past week. I don't think any of that's super important, but whatever. And we do have a new set of titles coming to Game Pass across platforms for the second half of June. The biggest probably being Call of Duty Vanguard, which is one of the World War II games, if I remember correctly. EA Sports FC, which is the soccer game, as we would say in the United States. 26, I think it stands for football club, right? As they would say in Europe. And then a bunch of Tony Hawk, Pro Skater 3 and 4. Mike, I have to say, I don't know what this game is, but I like the name. RV There Yet. It's pretty good. That's a pretty good name. That's good. Nice little play of words. I don't know. So that's cool. Whatever. What's the 17th? Yes, you can get Vanguard today. Is actually today. Junkster, a couple of others. So that's happening. And then I think I didn't put this. I don't have this open.
We were waiting with bated breath for Blizzard games to start appearing in the Game Pass list. Remember we really cared about that for like a year.
I think everyone's just given up on it. At this point, I don't think, like if there's a giant franchise, and Activision has at least a few of those, like World of Warcraft, and the related titles they have, those would be the ideal ones never to show up, on Game Pass, right? I mean, like why would you? I don't know. We'll see. So we know that GTA 6 is finally going to come out this year. I think in November, December. And so I double taked on this. I had to try to understand what this meant. Rockstar Games is offering free upgrades to current gen versions of GTA 5. This is the current game. And by current, I mean it came out in
10 years ago.
This can't be true. 2013. Are you freaking serious?
That's awesome.
Windows 8 was still new when this game came out. Think about that for a second.
Yep.
So if you have an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4, these are the previous gen consoles, right? They have done a bunch of graphical performance improvements, etc., which they provided already to people on current gen systems, and I think on PC as well, if I'm not mistaken. That stuff is going to the previous gen consoles. GTA 5 originally launched on the Xbox 360, by the way.
Yeah.
And the PS3. That's how long ago this was.
200 million copies of that game? Something like that.
It's incredible. I believe this is the best-selling game of all time. I think it is, yeah.
It helps to have a 13-year ramp.
Yeah, I know. We should all have that level of success.
I know how I'll increase the sales of my old game. Don't ship the new game.
Yeah, you guys have been coasting for a while. It's like, it's nice, isn't it? It's going great. So what was, oh man, I just saw something about Rockstar. Does anyone remember what the original Rockstar game was? Like, so before they did GTA, let me see if I can find this. They did some classic.
It was a side scroller, wasn't it?
It's something really old. I don't see it here. I just read something.
Let me ask my Chinese model, Quen, and see if she can come up with it.
So they did Red Dead Redemption.
That's much newer.
Max Payne, those games.
Max Payne, that predated GTA, didn't it?
That was in the 90s, by the way.
Loved Max Payne.
That's not what I'm thinking of, though. Why don't I see a list? I felt like they just came up with something. It was like a book I was reading, I think, where it was like, what? Like, what? Like,
responsible for what?
I don't see it.
Rockstar does what?
I forget more than I remember. That's for sure.
Creatine.
Why is this there?
Quen is really thinking. It's got 3 minutes.
I don't think it's that simple.
Here we go.
Because there's all these different entities that were Rockstar that made different products.
The original Rockstar games is Grand Theft Audio 1997 top-down view, created by the twins Dan and Sam Houser, launched in the UK in 1997.
They used to do a lot of that's what it was. I think they used to do ports of games. So they ported Monster Truck Madness to the Nintendo 64. They ported Earthworm Jim 3D to the Nintendo.
Earthworm Jim.
Evil Knievel. Yeah, Austin Powers games. Jeez.
Bully, L.A. Noire, Red Dead, Max Payne, and Midnight Club.
The Italian Job, that great PlayStation game.
But I think if they did GTA top down in 1997,
maybe what?
That's got to be the first.
But
that's pre-Rockstar.
The weird thing is, I thought that was based on that. It was in the context of the top-down GTA where.
Some games are isometric. That was well before. Well, 97. No, Doom had come out before that.
Yeah, Doom was 93.
Manhunt? No, that's 2004.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, maybe it was just the top. Like maybe I'm just misremembering this. Like the first Grand Theft Autos were top-down games. Like the first Duke Nukems were side scrollers.
Yeah,
right.
And then they went 3D right for the third one. Maybe that's what it is. It was just something. It was so archaic. It was like what? Like what? How is this? How this thing started? And now they do these crazy open world games, which is super popular, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh,
but only every once in a while because they don't.
So have to, here we go. Dan Houser graduated from Oxford in 1991 and started at BMG Interactive, the entertainment division of BMG Music, in 1992 as a game designer. There he worked on the Z series, Z, Steel Soldiers, and Z, Motocross Mania, and contributed to the first true crime game in 1993. Sam, his brother, later joined BMG Interactive. They left in 97 to form Rockstar Games under parent company Take-Two Interactive. GTA was their first flagship title, but no, I think The isometric
It must have
GTA
been the
was
top-down
was the
GTA.
first.
Yeah, that must be it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
You call that third person? No, you call it top
no,
down.
it's just top down. I think
Just
right.
top down
Yeah.
or isometric. No.
Anyway, everybody gets GTA 5, and that's good news.
Yeah, I thought it ended on a high note, but I just
Do you
feel
really
like
think this game is going to be all that, or is it going to be such a
that's the
big
thing.
one?
A couple of times now.
Yeah, you anticipate it for so long. It was going to come out, and then
They're in the
a
Duke
couple of
Nukem
times.
track now. It's
They
been
really
too
are.
long.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't make it good enough to live up.
Yep. Yeah, you never know.
We'll see.
But
Okay, isometric is a little from the side.
like a
Top
like
down. Yeah.
Three-quarter view.
what do you call it?
2.5.
Three-quarter view or whatever.
The
that
reason
is,
I asked that is there's a guy who's with AI created a isometric map of New York City.
Yeah.
That is just wild. It's greatly
There
detailed.
are people just using AI to do those kinds of things all over the place, like recreate maps of whatever, whether it's a real place or something from a video game and redoing it in some other way, in some other platform, some other, whatever it is. And I'd say, overall, without accepting IP infringement, et cetera, awesome, right?
Looks like SimCity.
Isn't this?
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, it looks just like SimCity. Yeah. But people say, I zoomed in and that's my apartment building.
and it looks like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
I
pretty.
expect to see like Homer Simpson driving around in a convertible or something.
Yeah.
This
is so cool.
It's
I gotta
amazing.
find Salt Hanks. Zoom in on my
I just saw a reference to Salt Hank on another YouTube video.
You said Joshua Weissman.
Josh Weissman.
He said, I sent it to Hank, by the way. Thank you for that. And he said, Weissman was in 2 months ago.
Yeah, well, production lines. Yeah.
But that is a good recognition. Although I wonder, because he's teaching people how to make the Salt Hank French dip at home.
Yeah. All the more reason to just go buy it. The best thing about lifting the tide is people forgot it's a lot of water.
Yeah. Good point. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah. I still haven't had a Salt Hank.
Yeah, you got to go all the way to New York, man.
I have to go to New York. I really do.
Although now we've got Josh's recipe, maybe we'll just make it at home.
Oh, yeah. Except Hank has suppliers, man. I mean, he's got the best beef.
The product.
He's got the best baguette in New York City.
He's got the best salt. That's why they call him salt.
Steve Gibson, it's so funny. He really liked the original Salt Hank's truffle garlic salt.
Mm-hmm.
And,
I think I still have some of that left in like a
we sent it to all the
I think I still have like the smallest like half inch of it or something.
It's not made anymore because that was the first round, and he made it with these two ladies in Petaluma, and they couldn't possibly make enough for the demand.
This is the one that's like white and black dots in it. Like
it's really good.
Yeah. I think that's the one we still have a little bit of.
Steve's wife figured out who made it, called them, and said, "I need more," and they said, "Well, we really can't make it without Salt Hank's approval."
How much would you say the Gibson family would pay for a quarter inch of this particular
It's
salt?
gold. Steve 2 days ago sent me a picture of the last few grains, and I said, "Good news, it's arriving tomorrow." Because So I texted Salt Hank, my son, and said, "Would you tell the ladies to make some for Steve?" And he said, "Got it." So I think we made 20 jars for Steve.
Wow.
But one year we sent that out to you guys.
My investment, Leo. So thanks for that.
Well, I told Steve, you better cherish this because there ain't going to be no more. The ladies are not making it again. So,
how much salt could this guy need? You shouldn't be eating salt at your age. What are you doing?
The garlic counteracts the salt, my friend.
I say, okay. This probably
I'm sorry. That was a digression.
No, not really.
Hank's salt in Canada, but only if I pay $36 for shipping.
I'll bring you some.
That's
I'll get you.
I'll be down your way before you're up my way.
Okay. Well, that's a fair trade because you gave me the best amaretto I've ever had.
Oh, that stuff was so good.
Oh my God.
We might be going to Florida soon, so maybe we could have an exchange of salt.
There you go.
Over the border.
Yeah.
Okay, a salt exchange.
Coming in from Mexico with
Actually, I'm going to see both of you.
Yeah,
can I tell them this, Lisa?
Oh, not Florida. I'm sorry, Dallas.
Las Vegas, dude. You better get it right.
Sorry, someplace.
Paul says, "Yeah, we're going to Florida." I said, What?
He's like,
he said,
no,
no, Dallas. I said, no, it's Las Vegas.
Sorry, you went to Florida last time. Sorry.
We're doing Windows Weekly at Black Hat in Las Vegas.
Okay.
We're going to be in the Threat Locker booth on August 5th, right? Is that right? Sorry? The blog is up, so it's okay. It's public knowledge.
It's official.
Okay.
And we're also going to do, Steve's coming too, so we're going to do, maybe that's what we should do. We should harass Steve to bring us a couple of
drug
jars.
user. He's going to be sitting in a corner, like pinching salt into his mouth.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you're going to Black Hat, we will be there live at Black Hat August 5th. Windows Weekly at 10 a.m. and Security Now at 2 p.m. And you can watch us do it. But it's a tiny booth, so you're going to have to all jam in. We like each other. Wear your deodorant that day. I'm excited. Lisa, you're on camera. You're on microphone now.
It's audible.
No bad name words.
Your wife has literally just emailed me about flights, by the way.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm excited.
We're gonna have
we'll all get together and trade salt.
Right.
Are we done with the Xbox segment? I've lost track.
Yeah. Let me just add one thing because I just came in an email too. Microsoft emailed, I think it's Microsoft. Yeah. To say that 10 of the security vulnerabilities they patched in June came from M-Dash.
10.
Yeah, highs, honestly. Mm-hmm. So I guess the rest came from Mythos or something.
Or M-Dash. I think there was some. Steve was thinking that Microsoft's own model, M-Dash.
That's the one that did the 10.
Well,
M-Dash
the
did the
best
10.
thing about M-Dash is you can still use it. So that's a heck of a feature.
The others came from Fable, you think, or
from Mythos?
Or Mythos? Yeah, because they have Mythos.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Don't know.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's the point, I guess, is that you're kind of hobbling the good guys a little bit. Mm-hmm. Although, Bruce Schneier makes this point in The Guardian today. If it's every model can do this eventually. In fact, every model can do it now. All the high-end models can do it now. So
this is not the time to take a pause on the security stuff.
A pause.
Yeah, why it's the interruption in workflow.
Yeah,
it's a big problem.
Yeah. All right, we got the back of the book coming up in just a little bit. But before we do that, I do want to give you a personal invitation to join the club, Club Twit. This is a club. What was it? W.C. Fields said, I think it was Casey Stengel. I'd never join a club that would have me as a member. No, it was Groucho Marx who said that. Well, we will have you as a member, and you must join. We want you to join. We really do. The club is a great place to hang out with smart people in the Club Twit Discord doing fun things like all of those whiskey segment images that Joe Esposito does. He does those with Photoshop, by the way, not AI. You want somebody saying they want a picture of me with a black hat or the promo. Okay. Here I am. You could do this for the promo of Black Hat. See, the club gets to demand things of me, and I do it. I leap into action because the club members are what makes it possible for us to bring you shows like this. 30% of our operating cost is somebody scanned the QR code. Thank you. I didn't know I would get a notification. Wow. Hey, everybody scan that QR code up here. And apparently I get a notification when you do. So I will mention it. So don't all do it at once. If you scan the QR code or you simply type in twit.tv/clubtwit, you'll find out what all the benefits are. The chief benefit is ad-free versions of all the shows. You wouldn't even hear this plug. Somebody just scanned the QR code again. Look at that. You also get special programming we don't do anywhere else, like coming up, the photo segment on Friday with Chris Marquardt. He's back. We've got Micah's Crafting Corner, his media club. We also have Stacy's book club. Lots of great stuff. The AI user group. But really the biggest reason to do it is to support the content that you see here. It is hard these days to be an independent podcast network. Everybody, is moving to Spotify or Amazon, and they're spying on you. They get more information about you than we ever could. Four more viewers scan the QR code. Keep it coming. This is great. Thank you. It really, I think, is important to have journalism that's supported by its audience, that it owes no favors to any big tech company, that tells the truth as they see it. If you value that too, the best way you can do it is supporting whatever outlets you listen to, whatever outlets you read. And I hope that we are earning your trust, and I hope you will support us. twit.tv/clubtwit. 3 more viewers just scan the QR code. Everybody, scan the QR code. I'm tempted just to leave it up. That's amazing. I didn't know I'd get a notification. Is that the best black hat, or would this black hat be better? I have many black hats.
That's a good hat.
This is
wow.
Maybe
you went from Clint Black to the guy from Guns N' Roses, whatever.
Slash. I could be Slash or Clint Black. I don't know. I'll wear one of these. I'll tell you what. I will wear one of these to the party, and to our Windows Weekly at Black Hat, and I will let the club members tell me which one. Okay. And they can specify other black hats if they want.
There is the Prohibition Bar in the Mandalay,
Yeah.
We are staying in the Mandalay.
So
tell me about the Prohibition Bar.
Well, because it is August, so going outside in Vegas is a good way to be set fire to. And so the fact that there's actually,
maybe we should do a little meetup there.
Yeah, maybe something.
I'm up for that.
Yeah.
Richard could give us a little personal lesson in.
We could pull a couple of interesting bottles,
I like that idea. Let's work on that.
Take you on a little drink.
We'll be there Tuesday night to set up, and then Wednesday to do the thing. I think we're doing dinner Wednesday night, but we could work on a meetup. That would be fun. Do you have to know password to get into the Prohibition Bar?
I hope so, because that's the
Swordfish.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the minimum at that kind of a place.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough of me flogging the club. Let's flog Molly. No, let's flog the tips and picks. It's the back of the book with Mr. Paul Thurrott.
I was I saw this story about like doom scrolling, and it's one of those terms, I've heard it 100 times, and I sort of have this vague idea of what I think it is. And so I went and looked at it.
Think it is what you do every day.
Well, so as it turns out, it's actually not what I do every day. So I guess technically or literally, the best kind of being right, is when doom scrolling is, when the news is always bad, but you can't stop looking at it. So you just sit there and, and then it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I think it's kind of evolved, like a lot of words do in this case, to mean someone who's like on social media, probably, just scrolling through.
Doom scrolling really speaks to the whole video short algorithm where because you're no longer selecting your content, it's just how long you linger over it. The longer you linger over something, the more you get of it. And that's what turns it into doom.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, okay. Then I've been doom living for a while, but
nice. Yeah.
Linger
over way too many things.
I just get obsessed,
By the way, I bug-eyed some high school students where I said, pick a category you linger over all the time in TikTok or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And for an hour, every time you see that category, just flip away immediately and see what happens after an hour.
Wow.
And I was at that school all day. Those kids came back at me at lunchtime like, oh my God, it's like, welcome to the algorithm. Like, you have control here if you use a little executive function to manipulate your algorithm.
Yeah. So by the way, this is a big part of this for me because I'm sort of a big I support the notion of like personal, responsibility or control or whatever you want to call it. But there is an addictive nature to this kind of thing where you kind of can't blame the victim, so to speak, because, the world is allied against you. I mean, this is designed. The reason we call this an algorithm is A, because it is, but also B, because it's designed to keep you locked in. I mean, that's right. It's working
more
well.
Of what you spent the most time on.
Yeah. But but that said, I don't really, every once in a while, and I mean a great once in a while, there are things I do this purposefully. Like there are things on social media that I think are interesting that are like fall into that kind of stupidity of Sasquatch, UFOs, ghosts, whatever that is, where it's like, you look at like a video, it's like, oh, what's that thing in the woods? You're like, it's nothing. And then you see 20 of them and then it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Right. And I don't mind because I don't do it. Like, I don't I don't do this all the time, right? But I can see the addictive nature of this stuff. You can see it in things like Call of Duty or in like Duolingo, like this language learning thing that I do, which is gamified. And it's, when we were in Mexico, I made a point of kind of trying to break out of that cycle, and finally did, where, it's like I was really trying to win this thing every week. You're in a group of people or whatever it is, and everyone has a score. And my goal is not to spend 90 minutes a day not learning Spanish. It's whatever. So I kind of tried to break through that, but I sort of appreciate the problem, and I certainly get fixated on things. Like, I get it. I came across, this is not I am not recommending this. This is one of what is probably thousands of such things, but there are suddenly a lot of things that are alternatives to doom scrolling that I think are kind of cool, meaning they're like healthier things to spend a little bit of time on every day. Like, you could learn something, and one of the things I came across is you pay for this. It's like $60 a year. Again, I'm not saying you should do this thing, but the one that I have been doing is something called Nibble. And it has all these, a lot of STEM related kind of topics, and then some fun ones like, crime solving type things or whatever, logic puzzles and stuff. And it's kind of I guess if you do find yourself kind of addicted to this doom scrolling scenario, however you do it, this thing that you could do, whether maybe you're laying in bed or it's the morning or you're standing in line in a grocery store checkout line or whatever, and you just have a couple of minutes to kill. There's all kinds of ways you could spend that time. But one of those ways, I think, that you do little micro learning things. There are ones for developers. There are little language learning, not language like Duolingo, like human language, like computer programming language type things. There's probably a lot of this stuff, and I've only just started kind of looking into this, so this is the one I found. But it's kind of an interesting idea. Like, I think it's a
Nibble. I have to try that.
It's worth looking at anyway, and then looking at things like that, because I think, like I said, I think there were actually very many of them. It's kind of break out of the cycle a little bit. And then on the app pick, I had this up in that software section I had up top with Mozilla and Edge, but I decided to make this my pick this week because this is so important. I talk about this one a lot, but PowerToys is like one of the greatest things in the world. It's for everything that's wrong with Microsoft. This is like the part that's really, really right. Like this, they just do a really great job with this. Their versioning is horrible. I hate this so much, but the latest version is 0.100, which I have argued is the same as 0.1, but actually the next one will be 101, right? 102. Like, I don't know what they do. Just release 1.0 for frick's sake, but whatever. They're on stupidity version.
How many years has this been out? This is...
Well, in its current form, this dates back to Windows 10. I mean, there was a PowerToys for Windows 95. There was one for 98. I think there's one for XP, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And then, I don't know, this is a new effort, but this is a collection of utilities, and many, many utilities, some of which over time have made their way into Windows, right? And there are certain ones that are in there today that should be in Windows. So, for example, Windows supports light and dark mode, but not a way to automatically set that on a schedule like every other platform on Earth. So there is I think it's called Light. What's it called? What is it called? Light something that does that. It's a PowerToy utility. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. You can have offsets and so forth, but a lot of people just do, sunset to sunrise, right? Have it be dark mode, right? Smart, right? Stuff like that. Command palette is a lot like Spotlight on the Mac. It's kind of a start replacement, which I actually prefer this kind of interface. But this version 0.100 has a bunch of stuff. The biggest updates are probably to the shortcut guide, which used to be this horrible full screen experience, but now is a context-aware pane that appears on the side. A bunch of new stuff with command palette, power display, Zoom It, which is the Mark Rozinovich utility, now supports the ability to record your webcam in an overlay over the screen recording, which you'd want to do if you're doing screen recordings, right? In some cases, right? Really cool. They updated it to .NET 10, right? Which dramatically improves the performance and makes it smaller as well on the disk, et cetera. There's a ton of improvements in this release. This is like an endless series of fodder for hands-on Windows, right? Because it's a lot of, it's good to demonstrate and it's good for people to know about. It's free. You can get it from the store. You can get it from Widgets. You can get it wherever. You can just download it from GitHub, I think. But I can't imagine anyone watching or listening to this doesn't know about this, or maybe probably most of you have it. But if you don't, or look, you have, please, dear God, this kind of completes the picture to me for Windows. Like, this is stuff, a lot of this should just be in Windows. Definitely good to know about.
Awesome.
I'm sorry, I'm learn scrolling. I
learn scrolling.
Nice.
For you now. It's a good term, by the way.
Learn scrolling. I love it. Yeah.
The problem is I'm setting up Nibble. By the way, this is my new black hat. What do you think?
Nice.
Well, I like the fez. Black fez. They don't call it Black Fez Conference, Leo.
It's the Black Fez Conference. I'm going to Black Fez.
You're like, where is it? You're like, I'm at the wrong show.
I need a brim?
Oh, yeah. That's a hat. You call that a hat?
I'm setting up Nibble. The only thing I don't like about it is it started asking me a lot of questions. Like, can't it just give me
the onboarding is really long, but you know what? It's worth it. And I can't say I've done it every single day, but I do it most days and 10 minutes.
Oh, it's testing me now. Do you know when the Berlin Wall fell?
Right.
I don't know.
89.
80, was John F. Kennedy the youngest elected president? That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Who led the Free French forces during World War II? Charles de Gaulle.
Yeah, from London.
Here's something your peers may not know. Medieval maps often put Jerusalem at the center.
Mm-hmm. If they were...
Is it easy for you to find time to learn? Criminally, would you just give me some nibbles? This is why Instagram wins. I'm telling you.
Drive me up.
Yeah.
I just want some nibbles.
I know.
It's time now to continue the back of the book with Run as Radio Mr. Richard Campbell.
Well, one of the biggest problems we've got in security at the moment is the crisis around certificates. The real issue here is when a certificate authority gets breached or, private keys are lost in some way, the revocation mechanism doesn't work. Full stop. It just plain does not work. You can revoke a certificate, but unless the browsers go and check all the different revocation sites, you're not going to actually get it revoked. And so the industry has made a move, and that move is to shorten the lifespan of SSL certificates. So today, right now, and this is what we talked about on show 1041 with Todd Gardner, you can no longer buy a 2-year certificate. The longest certificate you can buy from authorities, 200 days. And that number is going to keep going down year over year until it reaches 47 days, which is 30 days plus some slack, essentially, so that you would be basically replacing your SSL certs every month. This is just a way to fix the revocation problem.
Steve has been this has been driving Steve Gibson crazy.
Oh, yeah. And so I'd had Todd on the show maybe 5-6 months before to talk about the early stages of this, because he was building a tool called CertKit. And what he's come to appreciate as he started getting into the marketplace is the issue is not browsers and web servers. Like, that's not the issue. The issue is like IoT appliances and firewalls and stuff where change in certs is just hard. And so there's been a big push to build out automated tools so that you can get those certs and replace them routinely as this pressure comes on. We've had tools like Acme and things like that work for certain things, but just getting deeper into it, just so many places that certs need to live. So huge talking point and just a crisis that's coming on to address the real issue, which is if revocation worked, this wouldn't be necessary. But that's where we are. Just real life, man.
It's a complicated story, but
it is, and at least they're addressing it, not just ignoring it.
Yeah,
the answers are not simple.
Well, I feel like I need a drink after that.
You ready for a drink?
Yes.
I can hook you up. This was a gift for my visit and my visits to Copenhagen, where I ended up doing 4 different shows in 2 weeks. And this is the Thornes Danish single malt. So we're back to doing the sort of farm to bottle thing in Denmark again. We had Tui just last week, And Tui is in the far northwestern corner of Denmark, but this time we're going to go to Kagerup. And Kagerup is in the far eastern part of Denmark, nice and close to Sweden, about 50 kilometers north of Copenhagen. This is an area, the overall area on that part of the country, called North Zealand. No, not New Zealand, North Zealand, as in sea land. They're surrounded by the Baltic right there. And there have been humans there literally since the end of the Ice Age. The Maglemosians, the Kongamose, the Ertebal cultures, like 4,000, 7,000 BC, like right from the very beginning. And then, just like we talked about with the Tui, you get to the funnel beak people who come into the area in the Neolithic times, somewhere around 4,000 BC, with emmer wheat and barley. Interesting about the Zealand zone specifically, their archaeology, read this great paper on this, was there's this period between 3,500 and 2,300 BC where a new group of folks move in, and they don't push out the funnel beaker people per se. This was the pitted ware people. It's all descriptions of their pottery, right? And they were actually hunter-gatherers, but they were marine hunter-gatherers. So it was fishing, sealing, shellfish, and they just sort of moved around, where the funnel beaker people who were farming were a little more inland. So the two groups live side by side, just in different ecosystems. The coastal lands aren't particularly good for growing wheat and barley, and the hunter-gatherers just keep moving around. So, and things are pretty stable like that for hundreds of years until you get to the beginning of the copper and bronze ages, of Paleolithics, because that explodes trade, right? The tin was so rare. The copper is pretty plentiful. You can find it wherever, but tin is hard to come by. And one of the big sources of tin is southwest Britain. And so there's tin being brought from southwest Britain in through what is now France and onto the river system. And that starts to construct trade routes all the way to the Eastern Mediterranean, where the Bronze Age is really going to go big. And as those trade routes, all river-based driven, explode, everything that's tradable becomes important. And Denmark has amber. Now, the amber comes from the seafloor of the Baltic Sea, an ancient, huge forest that was submerged when the Baltic Sea appeared as the end of the Ice Age came along, buried all of this wood for so long that it became fossilized. And this amber literally pops off the seafloor and floats ashore. Routine. This still happens today. I've been in places along the coast of Lithuania where they routinely find chunks of amber. And amber was hugely prized by the Mediterranean folks. And so Denmark becomes a key part of a trade route. So they get the bronze. They're trading down the amber, this Nordic gold, as it's referred to. But the Bronze Age ends in the Bronze Age collapse around 1200 BC or so. But that in the Eastern Mediterranean was quite catastrophic. The Egyptians, the Mycenaean Greeks, the Hittites, and so forth became a famine. There were we had the Sea People raids. Like, it's a massive collapse. And that's not what happened in Denmark. In Denmark, the trade just faded away. And so the sort of wealthy culture that emerged, that built large mounds for their rich people, that kind of thing, stops for a few hundred years. It just becomes kind of quiet until you get to around the first Iron Age cultures, the Hallstatt cultures that make their way up to the Nordics. Now, why the Iron Age comes after the Bronze Age? Well, it's mostly metallurgy. Bronze is just a alloy of tin and copper. Tin melts at like 250 degrees C, no big deal. But copper, you got to get up to over 1,000 degrees to actually melt it, which is tough. You've got to use charcoal, you've got to use bellows to get that kind of heat. And once you alloy them together to make bronze, it actually has a lower melting point than copper has on about 950. And you can, once you get it molten, you can cast, you can cast tools from this. Typically axe heads are the most common thing, but also sickles, because you're cutting wheat, right, and cutting iron. Iron's melting point is 1,500 degrees Celsius, and that is really, really hot. It's very hard to get that high temperature. And you need to get that high to get the impurities out. Most iron ores are heavily contaminated. You need to remove the slag. But there was a discovery made that around 1,100, 1,200 degrees or so, the iron ores become malleable enough that you can start to hammer them and make what's called bloomery iron. And bloomery iron is not got all the slag out of it. But if you keep folding and pounding it, you can get some usable metal from it. It's not real hard. It won't hold edges particularly well. But for simple tools, it's workable. And iron is far more common than copper and tin. So you get this early Iron Age with these softer tools. You're probably still going to use bronze for your finer edges, for your sickles and swords and things like that. But light-duty tools start to emerge in iron. It's not going to be until about 500 BC that bronze really gets replaced once and for all, as we learn to make higher temperature kilns and start to actually melt things, which also very much changes that part of the world. Because as you get more iron tools, you get far more agriculture. You can produce a lot more food. And so there's a series of iron ages that happen in this world. There is a period we call the Roman Iron Age, and that's from beginning of AD up to about 400, although the Romans never made it that far, but their goods did. And then as the Romans collapse, you have what they know and call the Germanic Iron Age from about 400 to 800 AD until you reach ultimately the age of the Vikings. And iron was a huge part of the Viking Age because as iron tools proliferated and their ability to make them became so common, agriculture grew to the point where you had overpopulation problems. And when you have too many people, you put them on boats and get them to go visit other people and kill them. Winding down out of the Viking Age into the medieval age, we now start talking about this land where Kagerup is located, specifically Gribskov, which is in the northwest corner of North Zealand. And even in the Viking Age, so you're talking over 1,000 years ago, it was a managed forest. They were routinely harvesting timber from it, but in a manageable way. And it was a hunting preserve and also areas for grazing pigs and things like that. And by the medieval period, it becomes a royal hunting forest. So as the kings emerge and wealth emerges, again, they are protecting this forest the whole time. And even today, it's still an important forested area in the northwest of North Zealand. So as you come into the modern age, where we start to talk about this particular distillery, there is the Falkendale farm. Falkendale meaning the Falcon Valley, and raptors are common in this part of the world. And the Falkendale farm has been in operation since the late 1800s. This is all phenomenal barley growing country, cool marine climate, mild seasons. Winters aren't too cold, summers aren't too hot. And we bring us to our story of actually making a distillery. And this is a guy named Torben Thornes Anderson. And the distillery is called the Thornes Distillery. This guy's not a whiskey guy per se. He's just a fan. He was educated as a copywriter and an author and a journalist, and he loved his whiskey and toured around Scotland a fair bit. And then he got this idea, as he admits himself, that he wanted to make his own 12-year-old whiskey before he turned 60. And with all of the relationships he'd made in the Scottish Highlands and Speyside, he sort of got going on that. Now, while he was from Copenhagen, he chose North Zealand as an ideal place to make whiskey because of the farms, the availability of the barley, and excellent water. So he rented an old horse stable that was on the Falkendale farm. It was a bit of a derelict. It actually had a fire 20 years earlier, and the farmer didn't have the means to restore it and wasn't really keeping horses anyway, so the building had just been left as it was. And so he raised enough funds to actually repair the building and assemble the first distillery in North Zealand, producing a single malt, an organic single malt. First production is in 2019, so this is all very recent. And Thomas's focus was on totally manual operations, no automation, running a team for quite some time, just 3 people. They have a few more now. And while they always bought barley from Denmark, it's only just recently that they're producing enough barley on the Falkendale farm itself to be part of the process. They don't own the farm. They're just renting the space on it. The farm is still in operations. First casket laid up in 2020. Of course, they want to wait at least 3 years. And even at 3 years old, it's not going to be that good. So they go for very small casks, as little as 50 liters, tiny little barrels, which means quick maturation because lots of contact with the wood, but also a lot of angel share loss. So it's a kind of expensive way to go. It's a small operation, 1,600 liter mash tun. That's tiny. They do very long fermentations. Generally speaking, your yeast has done its thing in 48 hours. But if you leave it in, and this is what these guys do, 140-hour ferments to let the trailing edge, at least in some of the lactose, to actually kick off to richen up the flavor as well. They do use traditional distiller's yeast. This is not Belgium. This is Denmark. And the leftover mash, after they've done the extractions from it, they actually spread along the forest edges to feed the local wildlife. There's not a lot of farm animals here.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's good. 3 small stills, 2 wash stills, and 1 spirit still, all about 1,000 liters apiece. These are round, bulbous, with squat necks and short lie arms. They do very slow distillation runs, 10 plus hours per run. And when I was talking about TUI just last week, those were 6-hour runs. So you can get the idea. They're going after real oily textures and lots of grain notes, that kind of flavor profile. In general, they do barreling in bourbon and reconditioned barrels, as well as sherry casks, and they have local storage for hundreds of casks. That's largely open air, so they get the temperate climate into there. But we're talking specifically about this edition called the Kegger Up edition. It's on the side, and it says very specifically Sherry Oloroso. This was distilled in 2021 and bottled in 24, so it's only 3 years old, and it was aged in a single Oloroso sherry cask. The cask called MW009, and there's 872 bottles of this, of which I have bottle number 302, which caused me pause, because generally when we do a single casking, it's about 200 bottles. How the heck do you get 872 bottles out of this? So let's do the math. This is a 700 milliliter bottle. We got 872 bottles. That would be 610.4 liters. So add in the angel share, racking launches, wood soak, and all that. We need a barrel at least 700 liters big. Are there sherry casks that big? Now, our normal sherry casks are bigger than bourbon casks. Bourbon casks are typically 200 liters when they're originally made. They're remade into 250s. But sherry casks typically come in 500s, right? Those are the butts. And those are generally what we call sherry season casks. You can buy these from the sherry distillers. They put sherry in it for as long as you want them to, and then sell you the barrel for about €1,000. It comes from the old transport cask concept, but they don't do transport casks anymore. But there are bigger barrels. So the Puncheons, those are about 600 liter barrels. Now, those are real barrels used in bodegas typically for aging, secondary aging after you finish the bodega method. And they're much more expensive, €2,000 plus. But that's not big enough for making 872 bottles. No, if you were really going to do this, if this is what this is, it's actually got to be a bodega tonal barrel, which is a 700 liter barrel. I don't know how the heck he would have got one of these. These barrels are very thick, made of European oak. They're typically used for decades in the bodega process, that 3-tier process where they're moving from barrel to barrel. And look at the color on this whiskey. For 3 years in the bottle with no color treatment. That must have been a brand new barrel, which I went and priced one. If you can find one, and you probably can, €5,000 easy. For a little distillery, this seems insane. Right? Wow. And it's only going to be like this for this batch. And I would point out, this edition did win bronze at the World Whiskey Awards in 2026. So here I go. I've sold it up.
Have strong overtones of sherry, you think? Or?
Well, you would think with this much color.
Yeah.
This young, that smells like sherry. Holy man. Here we go. All right. I've got my little glass here. All that color. Yeah, very strong sherry, but no heat, right? This is quite gentle on the nose. It's not burning at all. What are we at? 46%? 46%. So typical, nothing, this is not cask strength then. Maybe that's how we got that many liters out of it. Maybe it came out of the barrel at 65%. He was able to cut it with water. Wow. Okay. Yeah, definitely a sherry cask, like through and through. Super smooth on the mouth, but grainy and fruity. Lots of heat now. More heat. Like I would almost think this was barrel strength with that much heat coming off of that. That's really nice. How Danish is this? Isn't that the question? We're going after the Danish terroir. I mean, in one sense, I could say it's very Danish in the sense that it's pleasant, right? Like most Danes I've ever met, they're kind of chilled out people. They got it going on. They know they live a great life. They tend to come in number one in their happiness factor for their country. And this whiskey rates up with that. This will make you happy. This is beautiful whiskey. Ready for the good news?
Yes.
You can't buy this. The 872 bottles are largely sold. So they are very hard to come by. And if you can happen to find one, they ran about $90 US, and they are not sold in the US. In fact, they are only sold in Denmark, France, Germany, Netherlands, and Sweden. Which is not surprising. That's not even all of the EU. But
not even all of Scandinavia.
Yeah. this distillery has not been in operation for very long, right? Really only started making booze in 2020. They do make a line of gin and schnapps. They call the gin Mad Owl after an owl they found in the stable when they were setting up. And the schnapps they call Fuckendell after the farm itself.
Careful there.
So those are, what for the 3+ years that they were laying up barrels and not being able to sell anything, they decided to make some things. And the Mad Owl Gin won some awards. They've done pretty well with that. But this is as young gets. There's nothing but 3-year-olds. Like Thomas is still years away from getting the 12-year-old he promised himself. I hope he's got some barrels laid up to actually wait for a while. But yeah, it's a lovely whiskey. It's very drinkable. Super approachable. It's very Danish.
Love it. You could find all of Richard's whiskey segments now on our website, twit.tv/whiskey, spelled either way.
With an E or without an E.
Whiskey.
It's okay.
With or without an E for you Irish folk. And of course, you'll find Richard at .NET Rocks. At runasradio.com, where you'll find Run As Radio and .NET Rocks' 2 podcasts. Are you going back on the road soon?
Nah, I'm home for weeks.
Yay!
Weeks.
And yeah, the end of July, I'll head out for the Nebraska Code and a little fishing in Montana.
And then we'll see you in Vegas shortly after that, August 5th at Black Hat. We're doing our show there on a Wednesday morning. Paul Thurrott is at thurrott.com. That's his website. Become a premium member, and that way you'll get all his books as well. Or you can go to leanpub.com if you're already a premium member and buy Windows Everywhere, de-shitify Windows, and the world-famous Field Guide to Windows 11. Together, they join us every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC for Windows Weekly. You can watch us live in the Club Twit, Discord, or YouTube, Twitch, X.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Kick. After the fact, on-demand versions of the show at twit.tv/WW or wherever you get your podcast. There's also a YouTube channel for the video. Great way to share that video. You can subscribe to the video and podcast as well. Thank you, Paulie. Thank you, Richard. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly.